Everyone would take their seats. We'll begin in about 10 seconds.
Him and his baby at his desk. Tell me, this picture, put it up at his desk. Why in the world does somebody from Sunshine have the picture and not at his desk? So I've been carrying it.
Welcome everyone to our regular scheduled City Council meeting on Monday, November 5th at 7 p.m. 2018. Actually, it's about 7:13 right now. I'll call this meeting to order. We're going to begin with an invocation by Councilmember Amy Martinez, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Bless us all as we meet together this evening. Grant us time and understanding to aid in our deliberations. Grant us patience and wisdom so that our action shall be beneficial to all. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please take roll?
Yes. We have Member Sierra.
Present.
Member Barentine.
Present.
Member Cuesta.
Present.
Member Martinez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Present.
Member Wink.
Present.
Mayor Olson.
Present.
All council members are present.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5 is consideration of minutes of a previous session. The first one is 5A, minutes of the regular council meeting on October 15th, 2018. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any comments, concerns? Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
We need to correct the vote on 9C8. It should be 5 ayes and 2 nays.
Thank you. Councilmember Barentine?
I agree with Councilmember, the Mayor Pro Tem, that is an accurate vote.
And that was 9CA, or
8.
9C8. Take care of that.
Any others? Right, we have a motion to approve with those changes. Is that okay?
Did you list the changes?
Yes. Do you want to repeat
what
it back
the
to
changes
us?
are?
It was 5 yeas, 2 nays. 2 nays being Member.
Well, at this
Russell
point, you might be guessing, but you might be guessing right.
I'm guessing right, I think.
I'd like it to be on the
Russell
record
and
what we're
Barentine,
changing it to.
the 2 nays.
Right.
Okay. Yep.
Does that satisfy everyone?
Yes, thank you.
All right. With those changes, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you. We're there. Can you clear them?
Oh.
On to 5B, minutes of the special City Council meeting of October 22nd, 2018. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of the special City Council meeting.
Thank you.
There's no date on the draft, though.
I believe it's on the back
Yeah, I think you're
page of it. October 22nd.
So that's
October 22nd.
second. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Any concerns, changes that need to be made? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you. Next up is item Agenda 6, recognition of scheduled public comment. The deadline to sign up to speak for scheduled public comment is Wednesday prior to the meeting through the City Manager's office. Only those who meet this deadline can speak in this section, and this is an opportunity for the public to address City Council. There is an expectation that the presentation will be conducted in a respectful manner. Council may ask questions for clarification, but there will not be any dialogue. Please limit your presentation to 5 minutes. Written materials for presentation to the Council may be submitted to the City Clerk to my left as a speaker approaches the podium, and a USB port is available for public presentation. First up tonight is Mr. J.J. Margiotta, an Englewood resident addressing Council with no topic given.
It's not opening up.
Environmental Foundation. Now, a lot of you are probably tired of me talking about this, but I want to take a moment to thank Maria D'Angelo, Brad Powers, and Maria Sabota for being strong enough to take and approve and want to approve a forensic audit of that organization. Now, what you need to understand, the organization was created out of a table law to bypass the table law by the city of Englewood. Now, some people don't really understand what that means, but the table law says that as the city cannot go into debt without the approval of us, the people. And so it has to be a vote of the people that goes into debt. Well, what we've had some individuals do is they figured out at the city of Englewood level that they create this nonprofit corporation. They can go into debt without the approval of the city. So we actually transferred all of our properties here in the city center to this Englewood Environmental Foundation. They created debt. We went almost $20 million in debt, and we're still paying that off. And that happened without the vote of the people. That's my concern. We, the people, have been kept in the dark for many years. The organization was created in 1997, 21 years ago, and we still have not had any transparency, literally up until today. And it's not really a day yet. It's not going to happen until forensic audit's over. But I think we're going to find that the checkbook for Englewood Environmental Foundation was actually used as somebody's own personal piggy bank for a while. And checks were written out to friends and family of board members and city employees. And for the last 21 years, which you need to be aware of, there hasn't been a maintenance contract for the building put out. Now, that's kind of interesting because according to our city laws, for the last 21 years, we anything over $50,000 a year must be put out for bid. Well, guess what? That's not what's happening. It isn't happening now. So that needs to be held accountable. We need to put that out for bid. Now, what I'm concerned about is that isn't just Englewood Environmental Foundation that's doing that. That's also our police department that's doing that. Now, on the agenda for this evening, we've got two other items that are for the police department. And both of those are over $50,000. None of those have gone to city council for prior approval, but they're expecting city council to rubber stamp. That's right, our city council, all 7 of those people sitting right up there. That's them. Will want to rubber stamp these dollar numbers based on that, not knowing anything about it. It's just somebody, if the city says they want it, we're going to go ahead and approve it and go from there. But they're going to break our law by approving it because they're not following our laws. That's the problem. Our city council, the people that we put into place to monitor our dollars and keep our funds safe, keep our city and our families safe, are not doing it. They are rubber stamping things. They're rubber stamping these budgets. They're rubber stamping these dollars being spent on the police department. The police department budget has been inflated by over 30%. And most of the budget for the 2019 has been inflated anywhere from 20 to 30% across the board. We as the people need to hold them accountable. Their approval of the budget is something that should never be done. I've been trying to get with all 7 of these individuals now for months to talk about these budgets and go line item by line item and show them where those budgets are wrong. They use an application that their city manager went to work for that everybody knows that's working with it, that the application is a pile of crap. But we spent $80,000 last year for it. The spending needs to stop. We need to become fiscally responsible. And it needs to start with those people up there. And it's up to you to make sure
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none. Next up is Mr. Jerry Walker. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Give your name and your address. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Walker, 4180 South Pearl Street. Good evening, City Council, our mayor, and all those concerned citizens who showed up here tonight. I passed out to City Council a simple sheet that says the word ethics and a definition of moral principles that govern a person's behavior. Being fair, honest, and ethical is one's basic human needs. Basically, what that means is if you see a crime, if you see something that has broken the law, you should say something about it, not just sit quietly and let it go by. And then when you're questioned about it, you're supposed to answer and not just sit quietly and let it go by. So much for page 1. Page 2 is very interesting. A core request was sent to the city clerk asking for, let me get this straight here, don't want to get it wrong. Asking for a document from the Englewood Fire Marshal on our recent flood. The answer to that core request was very simple. They take $25 an hour. They figured it would take about 20 hours to get that to you at about $500, and they needed $237.50 to get that started. In a second core request to the fire marshal simply said, and I'll read this from the reply. Per Laura Herblin, City of Englewood Fire Marshal, the document that you have requested does not exist. Part number 3 of tonight's talk. I wanted to tell our mayor, Mayor Olson, that Ms. Elaine Hults' health is much better. She came here and pleaded with you about a code problem where she was spoke to a code officer and felt threatened and intimidated. And it was about her health and a code problem. And that it took her quite a while to get that settled in. It actually took a couple of commanders in the police force to get that straightened out. But it has been straightened out, and she is feeling much better now. I thought I would tell that to you because I'm sure you've been to her house and talked to her because she's one of your constituents. And she stood right here at this microphone and told you what her problem was. And I'm sure that you went and helped take care of that. And I want to thank you for helping her to take care of that. I'm sure you know who we're talking about, right? Okay. Also with that, I'd like to let you know that we will be in front of this city council next week at the study session to talk about code enforcement. And we have a couple of things we would like to tell you about code enforcement. I will save that for next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, thank you. Our next person up is, the wrong one, is Miss Elaine Hults, Englewood resident, here to address council, no topic given.
Elaine Hults, 3333 South Lincoln Street, number 706, Englewood 80113. You're talking about current events concerning EEF. Well, I have a current event, the year 2017 to 2018. I was perusing this information, and I took one particular person who evidently was on the payroll of EEF, and they've only been in business for 15 years. It's a one-man operation, and it isn't a business address, it's the home address. However, this person claims that He does all these specialties. It's called the Angle Specialty Services, Inc. Well, I gave up on when I got to $1 million. This man was paid for doing the Christmas tree in the Civic Center, which another man claims he was paid for that. And this man claimed that he was doing snow removal and cleaning up and doing basic maintenance and repairs. I'd like to know what his qualifications are, because this is commercial. And things like that should be done under a contract, but I don't believe they were. Not only that, I found something very interesting. I looked upon another one called Twin City Security. And there were even some comments on this. Even some employees were not happy with these people. And I noticed something. We had double billing for 1 month, twice, different numbers of the check, and the same amounts twice. And I gave up when I got to around $1 million. I wasn't going to spend that much time. But I want you to know that these operations are one-man operations. For instance, this interwork entity, LLC, who actually AKAs as the Guild, which is right over across the way from New York Civic Center. It's a one-man operation. He's only been in business for 5 years. And he claims, according to his website, that he has on several sub-websites, that he only collects around, what is it? I think he said something like $30-some thousand a year, and yet I see a lot more money that he has been paid coming out of EEF. That's much more than around $38,000 a year. And if I was only making $38,000 a year on a company that I was working, I could understand that for a couple of years, but he's only been in business 5 years. By now he should be making at least 3 times that. Otherwise, it's a bad investment. I'd get out of the business. So I want to tell you right now, evidently our mayor is confused. Forensic audit tells the facts of the figures. The other audit only tells whether or not your procedures were correct. We have done a lot of procedures. And frankly speaking, I don't think when you're investing and taking on a responsibility, you're as concerned as the procedures of whether or not they had a contract or whether or not they took bids. You're more concerned on where the dollars are than what it's going to cost you. Do you realize something sitting up there? Evidently you haven't read our Constitution. Each one of you is liable individually. And if I were you, I wouldn't take this on. Not in a million years, honey. This is a bad investment. But if you want to do it individually, then you're going to have to get a rider. And a rider is going to cost you so much money. We don't have that kind of money to support you up there to cover your ass, in plain English. We don't. If we don't have enough money to take care of the sewer problems, and we have an avalanche of water, so somebody loses their life, we don't have enough money to take care of our infrastructure. We don't have enough money to take care of our bridges. We don't have enough money to insure you. So you better protect yourselves. Better read our Constitution, what it really says. And frankly speaking, I wouldn't vote for it with a 10-foot pole. If I were sitting on council and I was outvoted to take over EEF, I would get out of city council. Fast.
Thank you. I think we have one question for you, Councilmember Wink.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Ms. Hults, could you share the documentation you have with us showing that there was a lack of a contract with Angle's Specialty Services?
I could never find any contracts.
You didn't find any?
I could never find, just like I couldn't find any bids.
No bids, and
bids.
no contracts
But I
that
saw
you
the
were
money.
able...
I saw the money.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other comments, thank you. Our next person up is Mr. Martin Frasier, here to address council regarding ADUs.
Actually, I am a future Englewood resident. I have a property at 3744 South Bannock Street. I plan to move in once I get it remodeled. I was under the understanding that they may be having a vote on alternative dwelling units this evening. So that's why I'm here. As an Englewood homeowner, I'm very much in favor of allowing the alternative dwelling units on all zoning within the city limits. The alternative dwelling units have proven to be a great alternative for more increasing extended family situations, whether it be a place for a teenager or a millennial that fails to launch, a guest house for relatives to stay when they come to visit, or a place close to care for an elderly parent. An ADU will add value to the property and the property values with little or no negative impact to traffic, parking, or crime and safety. ADUs are common in the Denver metro area from Washington Park, Cherry Hills, and Castle Pines. Denver home builders have started building new construction and implementing ADUs in their model designs with great demand from the public. A great local example of the units is the southwest corner of Floyd and Logan, but that's considered a special district, not the usual zoning that we have today. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Frasier? No questions. Thank you very much.
Could I have a
Member
clarification?
Barentine does have a question for you, Mr. Frasier. Sorry about that.
You told me when you
So
were
you're
in
coming
the
back
audience
up.
that you got it. I'm so sorry. Go ahead and complete.
Yeah, I think he's up to the mic now. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm here.
You said that you heard that we would be voting on this tonight from Planning and Zoning.
Correct.
Okay. Was that originally scheduled for us, or because I don't know why Planning and Zoning would be giving him that information, and do you know when that's coming up, Mayor?
I have to look at my schedule. Maybe,
That'd be great to know. Thank you.
I believe it's the next.
I think it's next council meeting. We had too much going on in this one. Acting Deputy City Manager Hargrove, can you confirm that?
I think you're right. It's coming up on the 19th of November.
19th of November?
2 weeks
Okay.
from tonight.
Gotcha.
All right. Thanks for
Okay,
the
thank you.
clarification. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the information.
Next up is Ms. Kathleen Bailey, an Englewood resident here to address council. No topic was given.
I'm a total ditz when it comes to technology, so he's helping me. Get too uncoordinated. I lose my spot and everything, so I'll just thank you. Kathleen Bailey, 4686 South Jason Street. First tonight, I wanted to express how very much I appreciated having an opportunity to sit down and talk individually with Mayor Olson and members Cuesta, Sierra, Wink, and Martinez about my concerns with the Englewood Forward Comprehensive Plan. Whether we ultimately agree or not, it meant a lot to me that each of you gave me the time, and it was very helpful, so thank you. I deeply appreciate that members Barentine and Russell have been sympathetic listeners to my expressed concerns regarding the comp plan since 2016, so I thank you also. My ongoing concern, and you're probably all tired of hearing it, is the Englewood Forward comp plans designated residential transition areas. What I have displayed up on the screen tonight, thanks entirely to Member Cuesta's kind help and Jackie McKenna's and the technology people for getting this slide, is titled "A City of Englewood Comprehensive Plan Land Use Intensity Map." This is a map that neither our city council members nor the Englewood citizens were provided during any of the town halls or park gatherings in which the comp plan was marketed to the Englewood citizens. This land use intensity map starkly and clearly displays the full picture across the entire city of Englewood of the large yellow swaths of area this comp plan carves out of the heart of the existing much-loved Englewood neighborhoods and arbitrarily designates those bright yellow areas as residential transition areas upon which real estate developers can now build new product types and mix and missing middle housing types such as multi-unit land infill developments or of townhomes and fourplexes in order to accommodate, that says, the increased housing demands created in the Denver metropolitan area from massive in-migration and changing demographics. The largest swath is a rectangle encompassing a laddie across Broadway to Pennsylvania, starting from Yale, and all the way down to Quincy, where entire neighborhoods are arbitrarily split on either side of an alley as either residential transition areas, subject to developers on one side of the alley, and areas of stability, not subject to developers on the other side of the alley. In the upper west arm of District 1, that entire residential neighborhood is now designated as a residential transition area open for developers. Over 2,800 existing citizens' households are now designated as open for developers to convert these existing homes into 11,200 multi-unit households and their associated numbers of vehicles, completely offsetting what the biogas supporters believe will be an equivalent reduction in vehicle air pollution resulting from installation of the biogas project. And these developments will permanently damage our prized small-town ambiance. In order to facilitate and promote these new multi-unit developments in single-family zone residential neighborhoods within these newly designated residential transition areas, Englewood municipal codes were changed in 2014 to allow such exceptions to Englewood's long-standing municipal code protections for existing designated zone districts. See attached. Englewood says they are not forcing anyone out, but in reality, existing Englewood citizens who find themselves now in designated residential transition areas, who hope to remain in their beloved modest bungalows, will find their small town, tree-filled neighborhoods and their single-family homes they invested their lives in, slowly surrounded and built up with man-made canyons of townhomes and fourplexes, significantly fewer trees, and quadruple the number of vehicles on their neighborhood roads. The reasons they invested in those neighborhoods will be wiped away, and they will, in turn, sell and leave, and their little Englewood bungalows will also be scraped and replaced with more townhomes and fourplexes and 4 times the vehicle traffic on neighborhood roads and parked along neighborhood streets. My goal is to have the city council make the necessary corrections to both the existing comp plan and the Englewood Municipal Code that are needed in order to appropriately elevate, respect, and protect our existing Englewood citizens who proudly invested in their modest Englewood single-family homes and neighborhoods with every understanding that the zone district they invested their lives in was a foundation upon which they could trust. Those single-family neighborhoods with front and backyards will remain a valuable commodity for young families, and additions can always be added when families grow.
Ms. Bailey, I'd like you to ask you to finish up. We do have this, so we can read ourselves. Are there any questions for Ms. Bailey? I do have a question. So is this from this? Did someone in the city scan that for us? Because I know we saw it.
Yes, I had. when I first got this in February or March, I showed it to Cuesta, and I was going to do this presentation back then, and something came up and I couldn't. And he made us.
You scanned.
I don't have the technology. I'm clueless how to do that. He made this slide for me, and then had to kind of reproduce it or reproduced it with Jackie's help for tonight.
Thank you. My second question is just so the public knows, did Mayor Olson, Cuesta, Sierra, Wink, and Martinez meet with you separately or together?
I'm not sure. No, I know. I didn't. I was...
Separately, right?
Yes,
I just want to make sure people know that.
Talk individually with Mayor. Sorry, yes, at different times and separately, and it was very nice and very generous.
Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Also on that same note, I certainly don't have those type of graphic design skills. This originated with staff member John Forborough. He provided it to me, and that is the origin of that map as well.
Right. Harold Stitt created this map, and I was trying to shade in the regular, the big map of the Englewood cities with all the miniature pictures of each different section of the comp plan so that I could get a big scope. So they made that for me, and I thought it was fabulous. And all of you now have it, correct?
Yes.
Well,
yes, thank you. We will make
requested
sure everyone gets this particular one. Thank you very much. We'll be addressing this again. Next up is, sorry, I'm going to the wrong one, is Laura and Olivia, Englewood residents, representatives of Friends of Englewood Parks. We'll address council regarding Englewood Parks. If both of you could introduce your full names and your addresses. Appreciate your being here.
Thank you for having us. My name is Laura Jones, and I'm at 3184 South Vine Court.
Olivia Monday, 2958 South Lincoln Street.
We're both representing a grassroots organization or group from the community called Englewood Park or Friends of Englewood Parks. We're on a leadership team of 6 individuals, and our goal is securing long-term funding source for our Parks Department and working with the city and the residents. We just want to thank you for your time today and consideration. We really do love our parks, specifically the location, size, and the cleanliness when we do go to the parks. But we're here today because we believe the parks really do need more funding. And the latest master plan shows we're short $30 to $50 million. And what we've learned is currently we have 0% of our budget dedicated to our park system. Right now it's being funded through grants, and we think that needs to change. Our citizens as a whole believe in parks and are willing to spend the money to improve them. Latest demographic study of Englewood shows that there are younger people moving here. 49% of our residents are 18 to 44 years old, and over 50% have lived in Englewood for 5 years or less. The 2017 master plan shows 85% of residents use our parks. In the survey results from the National Recreation and Parks Association, 78% of Americans want more money spent on parks.
We would like to ask the City Council to task the Park and Recreation Department. We're researching our option in order to bring our parks in alignment with the goals of the 2017 Master Plan. We see that there are 3 options that needs researching so that the citizen can decide what is best for us. The first one would be to raise fund to make improvement, maintenance park, like this could be in form of bonds, sales taxes, etc. The second one would be like do nothing, use the money available in the city budget. And then the third one is like merge or contract the South suburbans and learn what their service would look like. We would like to ask you if you can talk to the Parks and Recreation Department and see if they can come up with like a study. Then we can put them maybe in the next ballot and see what options there are for us there. General update of Friends of Englewood Parks. You can find more information on our website and Facebook, and including a way to get in touch with us to send in the petition. We have a petition online to try to get your attention. We now have a leadership of 6 volunteers. Our next meeting is going to be December 1st at 10 a.m. at the Nixon's Coffee. If anyone would like to join the leadership team, we would love that. We continue to work with the Budget Advisory Committee and Parks and Recs Commission. Thank you very much for your time and the service that you give us.
Thank you. There may be some comments for you after the next set. Are there any questions? Councilmember Barentine has a question for you.
Is this, was your group founded around the Rotella Park or the Mushroom Park?
Yeah.
So your first the presentations, that's the same group. That's okay. And so that's still one of your main focuses, or focuses?
So
that's not even a word, focus. Or are you branching out into issues with other areas?
All the parks in it.
Okay.
Like we're referring to the master plan that was done. That
Right.
is all the parks. There's Jason Park. There's like the Bates Park. All the parks need some updating, especially the playgrounds and obviously.
But is your focus for your group still that park first?
So, no, the two women that started the Friends of Englewood Parks, they live near Romans Park. And so
Romans, I'm sorry. I had the wrong R.
That's okay. They were, that is their home community park. It happens to be mine as well. But we feel like in general, Englewood Parks, with exception to one that has been renovated, most of the park's facilities and infrastructure are over 30 years old. And we currently, other than our master plan, have no way to fund any of those changes. And as citizens, we want to figure out how we can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Next up is Lisa Smith, here to address council. No topic given.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Pro Tem. And thank you, City Council. My name is Lisa Smith. I am a small business owner. I have a wellness center that is located at Hampton or 285 Jefferson, if to be correct, and Pearl. So I am in front of Swedish Hospital. I am a new small business owner of Englewood, and I have big dreams. What I would like to ask City Council for consideration is for use of the floor that we are on. I have created Colorado Coalition for Health and Wellness, and we would like to bring awareness to Englewood for health and wellness alternatively. So my idea of helping others is whole life healing. We now have chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists on every corner. Fantastic. There's more, and we can help people with more, but I want to do an event to showcase other healers and to bring awareness to health and wellness. The reason that I'm bringing this to City Council is because of the funds. I am a business owner. You're looking at Colorado Colonics and Detox Center. I'm it. This event, I foresee not just one and done and okay, big deal. I want to have multiple events. I would like in my circles of all the people that I've been networking with for the last year and a half to see how amazing this event center is and what it could be. Because what I have envisioned is putting together these events and everyone seeing what they can do here, and they will want to bring their events here as well. But putting Englewood on the forefront of health and wellness. People with cancer, the new statistic is 40% of people with cancer are looking for alternative means to help them. And we have that. We have the ability to showcase that. I'm asking for help from City Council because I would like to use this second floor and the community room as part of our event. I have spoken with Eric, who runs the Hampton Hall, and the theater would be a great venue for me to schedule speakers, to show documentaries, to bring awareness to the community. I want to build community. That's the purpose of this, is just to build community and awareness. Because I'm a business owner, why not do it here? Why not do it where I'm conducting business so that I can bring awareness to the neighborhoods and the neighbors can get together and bring a sense of community to Englewood.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Smith? Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
When would you like to use it? And go ahead.
Pardon. Initially, I would like to have our first event the first quarter of 2019. I'm looking at really getting this launched immediately. So really what I'm looking at when I first approached Eric was looking at the venue of the theater was great, and then when he came back to me with the price for the atrium and the community room, it was 4 times the amount that we were expecting. And I would really, this would be, our first event would be 1 day and for 12 hours. And at that price, I'm looking at over $5,000. Now, I'm anticipating having over 30 vendors at this event, in the initial event. So this would be all of the vendors coming and then bringing, I need to create the awareness and create the marketing to this. So I need the time now. I need to build the website, structure, and have all of the people who I need to gather and have them be committed to this event. Now, they need to decide now.
Thank you. Council members, can we keep it? We're almost at an hour, and I'd like to make sure that we get to everyone. We've got about 8 more people signed up. Can we keep quick questions? If we can make it a council request in the council member time, that would be beneficial. But if you have a quick question, go ahead. Councilmember Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. So you plan on having an ongoing event. Your first will be Q1 next year, and you are, as I understand, I want to clarify, you would actually like to use, because you're going to have different event types, you said the theater would be good for a certain type of event, but you're actually asking if you can leverage the community room, probably the atrium, as well as Hamden Hall.
Yes, I would like to take
so
over
all the spaces at some time or the other?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to actually just occupy the 2nd floor. So I would.
What do you mean by occupy the 2nd floor?
I would like to have the community center. I would like to have the atrium. I would like to have use of this space, and
for each event.
Yes. So it would. So this first event, it would be the theater, and it would be the atrium and the community center. But this is only the beginning.
Right.
So what I'm asking for help with is the dollar amount. That this is. I understand that the city needs money. I want to build it to get there so that this isn't just one and done. I want to do it multiple times, and that there's going to be more that are going to be offshoots from these events.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
And Councilmember Barentine, and that's the last question.
I appreciate that. You've clarified my question. The help you're asking for from us is financial, and that wasn't clear in your presentation, so thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I guess we have 2 more. This is an interesting topic to people. Member Cuesta, and then Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm curious myself, because I certainly don't know the rental rates for that space. But if I'm understanding correctly, you were quoted a $5,000 rental rate to use the theater community room as well as the atrium, and it was $5,000 for a single day?
Yes, it's over $5,000. So basically, the theater is at a reasonable rate per hour. What was given to me from the city was $400 an hour. And this atrium space on a Saturday, it's closed. It's open to the public. And then the community room, okay, I guess for a certain dollar amount, but I'm not understanding that the money's behind this. I'm not trying to pave a road. I'm just trying to put on an event, and I'm trying to work with Englewood to bring awareness to Englewood. So yeah, I can look at other events and venues, but I'm here. I'm a business owner here. I want my people to come here.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I think you answered my question. So you're looking to have it on a weekend day, like Saturday? Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There may be more comments during council member time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen, I've been told, is not here tonight. So we will go on to agenda item 7, which is recognition of unscheduled public comment. Speakers must sign up for unscheduled public comment at the beginning of the meeting. This is an opportunity, again, for public to address council. There is an expectation the presentation will be conducted in a respectful manner. Council may ask questions for clarification, but there will not be any dialogue. Please limit your presentations to 3 minutes. Time for unscheduled public comment may be limited to 45 minutes. It looks like we're going to be under that, so we'll be okay. Please hand out anything to the city clerk, and there's a USB port available to you. First up today is Mike Jones, here to speak about the budget.
Good evening, Council. Michael Jones, 4851 South Pennsylvania Street. I'd like to speak to you about the budget this evening. So I've spent the past couple of months watching Council discuss the 2019 budget, and I've seen individuals from staff get up and explain parts of this proposed budget. Over the past year, I've watched and heard members of the Budget Advisory Committee and our previous city manager come before Council and justify spending, in the same breath, continue to promote the fear of a fiscal cliff, as well as going so far as to consider a regressive head tax upon those that work for our city. All of that's foolishness, and it really must stop. We have a revenue problem in Englewood. We don't have, we have a revenue problem in Englewood, and we have a spending problem. We've taken on capital projects that a city our size should not have committed to. We have departments that are not providing the value that their descriptions are calling them to do. Case in point is with regards to community development. In an economy that is robust as the one that we are experiencing, to have as many vacant spaces on Broadway, never mind off Broadway, is embarrassing, to say the least. The municipalities surrounding Englewood are not experiencing the same level of vacancy. Does Englewood hold the directors of its organizations accountable? Does Englewood review and critique the work that it does? It doesn't seem to be the case. Having worked for one of the largest companies in the world and having been responsible for years of fall planning, I can tell you that the methodology of coming before council and asking how much will you let us spend as a department, as opposed to council asking how much will you be cutting this year, is wrong. Our previous leadership obviously did not establish the appropriate mindset when addressing budgets. We aren't here to build an empire, we're here to serve the citizens. This should be the prime directive. Make no mistake, it currently is not. The attached spreadsheet, and I did send everyone an email today with a spreadsheet showing the discrepancy between the 2018 budget as well as the RAD tool, which is used to work on the budget going forward, has large discrepancies, and it's been noted a number of times this evening as well as in previous meetings. In that spreadsheet, and I just gave you guys basically just a summary sheet this evening, I chose the top spending accounts in addition to a few others. The discrepancy between the two when it comes to dollars and FTEs is appalling. I want council to answer how the Englewood finance and how council can in good conscience make a decision on a new budget based on these numbers. This is a question that I will be reaching out to each one of you on and expecting an answer. The citizens of Englewood demand that we are fiscally responsible. In our October 8th study session, Mayor Olson, you asked council to come up with solutions to cut the budget. You stated that this is one of the best budgets you have seen. How can you make these statements when your own tools meant to guide you in creating and approving the budget work don't work? Your job should be twofold. How do we reduce the budget and burden on Englewood citizens, and how do we raise revenue? I've yet to hear from anyone on council address either one of those.
Very much. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to Ms. Vicki Hoffman, here to speak about drains.
Vicki Hoffman, owner of 4630 South Bannock. Last week I was notified by two citizens that they received a postcard mailing called "Have You Been Impacted by Flooding in Englewood?" As of today, us, my husband and I, and our tenant has not received this. This was to be an independent study. So why, as a homeowner, does an independent survey go straight to the city of Englewood? Why have we not received one? It should be going straight to Calibre. The survey I did look up online is intrusive, and I believe nothing more than a ploy to gather information that could potentially be used against citizens in the event of a lawsuit. The survey should be sent to homeowners, not tenants. How does Calibre or the city justify their mailing strategy if not everyone receives one? How does this warrant $70,000? What emergency operations management has changed or learned from the last 3 months? What changes have been executed with the emergency notification system? What has the police department implemented to ensure they are ready for the next disaster? This weekend I went over to a Coleman Bannock alley, and once again the bubbler is dirty and full of leaves. The alley grading is already deteriorating, and the reality is nothing has changed in 3 months. The bubbler should be immediately connected to the culvert box, which Director DeAndrea stated was not the city's responsibility. The bubbler is a dead end to nowhere other than another flood. 3 months ago, I brought to council the Emergency Operations Management Plan, taken off of the Englewood website. I am here again tonight to ask, where is the report regarding the flood of July 24th? Who is responsible for providing this report? Where is it? And honestly, I would like to see it now. If there is no report, then I ask of you to find out why. Was it the fire marshal's responsibility, the police department, the city manager, or Public Works? Why have we received no documentation, no departmental emails or correspondence? Why has council not been provided this information? I asked in a core request for this report, which I was told the document I requested does not exist. Please help me obtain this report. If not for us and other citizens and businesses, then for Rachel Haber, who lost her life that fateful night. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, thank you. Next up is Mr. Scott Marsh, here to speak about Veterans Day.
Good evening, Council. My name is Kenneth Scott Marsh, 4831 South Washington Street, Englewood homeowner for 45 years. This Veterans Day marks 100 years since the first armistice on November the 11th, 1918. The first celebration was in 1919. The armistice was the end of the hostilities at the end of World War II and the surrender of Germany. Congress adopted a resolution in 1926 asking Calvin Coolidge to issue an annual proclamation calling for the observance of November the 11th with appropriate ceremonies. It was approved in 1938, and that's when it was made a legal holiday. In 1945, a World War II veteran named Raymond Weeks, who's known as the father of Veterans Day, had the idea to expand Armistice Day to celebrate all veterans. He made the suggestion to then General Dwight Eisenhower, who, when president in 1954, signed a bill into law, and Armistice Day was changed to Veterans Day. Who are the veterans? Who do we have? There's around 20.4 million U.S. veterans. That's about 7% of all U.S. adults. The largest share of veterans currently, just in the last year, the Gulf War veterans took over from the Vietnam veterans because evidently we're starting to die off a little bit. So there's 7.1 million who served during the Gulf War, 6.8 Vietnam-era veterans, out of 12 million World War II soldiers. There's 771,000 left, and that's it. That's it. They're dying. There's 1.6 million Korean War-era veterans. The people of Englewood have the pleasure of my company due to a chain of events that began early in 1941. 3 Marsh brothers, Leo, Kenneth, and Sam, were stationed aboard the USS Lark. It was a Navy minesweeper patrolling the waters around the Philippine Islands. In June of 41, Sam was transferred to a heavy cruiser named the Houston, In July, Leo was transferred to a mine layer named the Ogallala, and Kenneth was stuck on the Lark. On December the 7th of 41, the Ogallala was blown out of the water in Pearl Harbor. I'm sure you've heard of it. Leo survived that hit and went on to make a career out of the Navy. Then in February of 42, the Houston was attacked, and Sam was badly burned and transferred to a hospital on the island of Java. Then when Java was
Mr.
being
Marsh, I
overrun
need
by
to
the
ask you to
Japanese,
finish up,
Sam was
please.
put on the USS Pecos to be returned to the United States. In March of 42, the Pecos was sunk by a Japanese dive bomber, and Sam was listed as missing in action until the end of the
Mr.
war.
Marsh, can I ask you to please finish up
Yes, I will.
in the next few seconds?
Kenneth finished the war on the Lark, and he was aboard one of the only 2 minesweepers in the Asiatic fleet that was still afloat at the end of the war. Amen.
Thank you. Councilmember Barentine has a question for you.
You preface that by saying that you are here because of them. How is, I didn't.
Well, it was the fact that I'm here is because of the way that they were separated. They were all on the same ship at one time before the war started. Then, because of the way that they were transferred, one died, one ended up in another part of the world, and my father was stuck on that lousy minesweeper for the rest of the war, and he was the only one that didn't go down with the ship.
Thank you. I missed the point that it was your father, and thank you very much. I'm glad it happened. Thank you.
Thank you. There may be some more comments from some of us at Members' Choice Time. Next up is Ms. Cian Dickerson.
Colleen, also known as C.N. Dickerson, 2835 South Pennsylvania Street. Those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it. We don't know EEF. Despite what we have been told, that EEF is a private corporation, a 501c3 corporation, separate, that is not true, nor has it ever been true. The firm which set up EEF told the IRS that EEF was an integral part of the city of Englewood. There are no 501c3 filings, no EIN, nothing recorded as a nonprofit 501c3 corporation. There are no tax filings. There is no IRS status for EEF. Much of the accounting consists of journal entries within the books of the city of Englewood, which is only appropriate when a department or subdivision of the city has internal allocations. The city is paying CAM charges without bills or a lease which requires any such CAM charges. That's just one of the problems. The only lease that has been revealed so far is 2015, no mention of CAMs, and we can sublet. We've been told all along that we can't sublet this building because of the relationship with EEF. But right in that lease, it says we can sublet. There are many more anomalies, including the somewhat defensive and angry response from the attorneys this study session. I question the attorney's opinion about what constitutes a proper audit or a forensic audit, and I question how they set it up. The request for a forensic audit is rational, necessary, and should be approved for the protection of the staffers regarding liability and the protection of the city and the citizens. If council had approved a forensic audit last September, the new staff board would have been protected and many problems solved quietly at far less cost in terms of public perception, conflict, and cost in general. We can't know how to proceed until we get the results of the forensic audit so that we know what we're dealing with. Putting EEF on the backs of council and therefore the city and the citizens could be illegal. It's certainly not ethical, and it certainly is questionable. The forensic audit is necessary to move forward and protect us all. We cannot move forward unless we know the facts and the history. Otherwise, we are doomed to repeat the same problems and the errors of the past. until we know the facts of the operation, have a plan, and are in compliance with Tabor, state law, charter, and Muni Code, no progress can be made. Approve the forensic audit.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, thank you. Next up is Aaron Reed, here to speak about some kind of design, I think. Or I saw the sign.
My name is Aaron Reed, 3584 South Corona Street, Englewood. May I approach the clerk, please?
Council, while he's coming, we're going to take a break after the last person, and we've had our chance to make response. So if you're wondering, we will take a break. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Okay. I saw the sign. It opened up my mind. I saw the sign. Okay. I wanted to make everybody smile.
That is what it said.
Yeah. But I spelt it sign, not sing, as you can tell. You're a college professor. You're very adequate at that. On or about July 24th, 2018, we had a flood that took one of the lives of our fellow citizens here in Englewood. We are...
Please start the timer.
Supposed to have what's called an emergency manager position, which we do not have. So I think advertising something indirectly, not on purpose, perhaps, is probably a good way, depending on which way the ballot goes tomorrow evening for us here in the state of Colorado, maybe even here in Englewood, getting ourselves lawsuited against. I'm not a legal expert. Let's leave that to who is, but let's not take the chance. Tonight, I brought the sign that you guys see there on the picture. It's by the gateway to the city of Englewood, and we saw the map earlier, which isn't too dissimilar from the large map that's up there on the back of the wall. And you're probably familiar with the intersection of Jefferson Road, or Hamden Motor Speedway, as I've nicknamed it, and Lafayette Street, which is over there by the new medical building, or the one that they remodeled here a couple years back. Well, that's fine. As the citizens see here, that sign's up on a 6-foot pole. Well, now it's in my hand right here, and I'm retrieving it to you guys of City Council because I think we need not have the liability. Does anybody geocache? Does anybody use a GPS? Well, let me just give you the estimate, and I'm sure the city could do it. This sign was physically 35 feet above where I'm standing right here. There's no way it's going to flood right there. It's just at the gateway of the city. This is inappropriate. We don't need this in our city. I'll be handing this to the clerk as well. There might be, but I'm not going to drive around the whole entire city. I'm not staff. Another one of these, if it is, I think we can reconcile, and I'd be happy to remove it gratis, assuming it's not more than, 6 to 18 feet up on a pole. Obviously, this one was barely that, so not a problem. And I would be happy to return it to an appropriate signage and placard, if the city would so choose, upon our getting ourselves a new emergency manager coordinator position filled. It shouldn't be on a telco pole to begin with, even if we did have said person. So I just don't want to see us get ourselves into a kerfuffle. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any questions. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Next up is Janice Brown, here to speak about multi-something.
Janice Brown. I live at 3808 South Elottie Street. First thing I want to talk about tonight is a few weeks ago, a small group of people asked that we retire Linda Olson as our mayor. I would like to express my complete support for Mayor Linda Olson. Her attempts to keep one city council member from monopolizing the conversation are not rude. She has been very civil and respectful in her interventions. The response she gets from one city council member are in fact rude. Linda tries to keep the meetings moving with thorough, even-handed conversations. She also attends as many community events as possible. Linda's doing an outstanding job as our mayor. My husband has a suggestion to keep one city council member from monopolizing the conversation. He proposes setting the timer on the city council members the same way it is done for citizens during scheduled public comment. After 5 minutes, the mayor would intervene to give other city council members a chance to give their point of view. This would result in the meetings being half as long as they are now and being much more productive. Member Barentine obviously did not learn anything from the recall election. 688 of her constituents voted against keeping her in office. She won by 46 votes out of 1422. The attempt to recall her was due to her bullying, abusive behavior. The recall had nothing to do with E for Murph, as she insists. Her conspiracy theories are total fabrication in her own mind. The way she treated Mr. Brennan, Director of Utilities, and Mr. Van Rye, Director of South Platte Water Renewal, during the last City Council meeting demonstrates her contempt for treating people with respect. She berated them for not being able to produce the data she wanted on command. We have already lost a city planner, several directors, our city manager following her abuse. How many more city employees are we going to lose due to her bullying behavior? Thank you.
Seeing no questions from council, thank you. That finishes our agenda item 7. Next up is agenda number, or actually it's public comment, or council comments to the public comments. Would someone like to begin? Councilmember Barentine.
I want to thank the people who came out for the budget, Jerry Walker and Mike. I agree that there's some issues. Mike, I think you did a beautiful job in bringing up in your presentation and bringing up some of those issues, as JJ did as well, on the problems that we're having with the source documents that we're trying to do this budget off of and where some of that problem comes from. The issues on EAF, JJ, thanks for the presentation. I don't know how you figured out which way to point so that you were pointing at us, but that was rather clever. Elaine and Cian as well, I greatly appreciate that. We are still looking at the comp plan, and Kathleen Bailey did a beautiful job on the map, and apparently with the help of Councilmember Cuesta to get some additional information. And I think as we're looking at that we need to address that. We do need to look at the charge for space. I think we should at least have the conversation and get a little bit more information for what you're asking for, and provide you with some more information on how that's broken down. But for this common area space on a Saturday, we just need to know what the cost would be and what we would be recouping and what the barriers are to that it's that expensive. To Aaron Reed's comment and Vicki and Hoffman, and to Jerry Walker, get with Vicki later, Aaron, because she was the one who made it very clear to this city council that we had an emergency manager listed and an emergency plan on the website. I think it is a legitimate request to ask for the emergency manager's report on that incident, and it is unfortunate that so far they've been told that it does not exist. I would find that they probably have a legitimate concern that if we have an emergency manager and it was listed as the fire marshal, did not do a report for that day, that would be of some concern. And so I'm sure they will continue to follow up on that. And as to Janice Brown, I agree. 13 minutes to try to get a simple answer on the budget that departments have been working on for some time is not waylaying anybody or surprising anybody. It's the budget they put together, and to take 13 minutes and continually have to repeat questions on something that really impacts this community, like having to have a rate increase and where a fund is, should be a pretty simple square one. And I think you'll find that if you start setting timers, I won't be the only one that gets cut off. And to Scott Marsh, thank you very much for your service, and thank you very much for bringing it to light, as we should all remember that because people served, all of us might not be here if it weren't for somebody that took the time and effort to serve their country and be there for somebody else, to save somebody else so that they could be somebody's dad. So thank you very much for your service and for your father's as well, and your presentation was very touching. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. I have a few comments. Mr. Marsh, thank you. You sort of stood in for Doug Cohn tonight a bit here, too. We were waiting for some history, and it was great to get it, and it's so timely. My family had a lot of people that served, particularly in World War II and Vietnam, and so it's a tough time when you think about what service you all have done and what people have done in terms of sweat and tears, and yet at the same time it's such a thankful kind of time for us to thank you and others who have done this and put their lives on the line. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate you bringing it forward or bringing it to our attention again. We won't be meeting next Monday night, by the way. We'll be here Tuesday night because of the day. I do have two council requests. If the Friends of Englewood Parks, who did a great job again, and I want to make it really, really clear because you were asked several times, is this about Romans Park? It isn't. It really is. They've stated that from the beginning, that this is branched out to all the other parks. They've taken a very strong look at the plan and see that there's a huge gap there in terms of funding. So I would just like to ask for a council request with our Deputy Acting City Manager, and who also knows the parks well. Where are we on the status of coming up with some ideas of how to plan it? And if you don't want to do it now, that's fine. You can just send something out to us, but I'd like to make sure they know. And just an update for us on council, if Parks and Rec has dealt with this. I think I saw some of that, but it might be good for an update for us at some point. I'm with you on this. I want to see our parks increased in funding. The second council request would be for Ms. Smith, again, Deputy City Manager Hargrove, if we could have information to all of us on what the costs are for the building. I'm sure that a whole building with the Hampden Halls would add up, and maybe we don't have a flat fee for something that could be maybe shifted a bit to allow for some better use, especially if it's empty. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that Ms. Smith that you're doing. I think if you sat here as you did for an hour and a half, you can see that all of us need some wellness in many different ways, right? Need some peace and some focus on our own breathing. Those are the main items. Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor. I agreed. Thank you to everyone for coming out tonight. And I take every one of these comments to heart. And just a quick run through the list. Mr. Margiotta, Mr. Walker, and Mr. Jones all pointed out various aspects of the budget where concerns lie. I think that the RAD tool seems to be especially being called into question here, and that's concerning for me, and I think everybody up here, and that really is our bridge to transparency to the citizens, and if the citizens can't rely on that, I think that we can place the credibility of the budget and really just operational budgets as well, that where the money is spent into question. And so that is a priority right now, and this has come up a few times, us getting that corrected, just to make sure that is where it needs to be. Mr. Margiotta using the video tool makes for a big finger that he was pointing us up there, so he definitely had my full undivided attention with that particular manner of presentation. Lisa Smith, I was unaware of the rental rates before this conversation. I think that getting some sort of revenue out of those rooms is better than nothing. And not to mention bringing folks into Englewood is always a good thing. So it sounds like there's some incentive to review that and some motivation to do that up here. Ms. Hoffman and Mr. Reed, the flood is our ongoing conversation. It's still my number one priority. I think it's the one thing that council has to get right between now and at least the end of my term. It has to be made well. There's a reference going back to 1997 when that report was done, so this has been a decades-old problem. And I think it does have really everyone's attention. And I know it's slowly but surely, but I think it's one of the things that it's not a conversation that's going to go away, and we'll stay after it. In the Friends of Englewood Park, I go to the Englewood Parks with my daughters frequently. I think that is one of Englewood's gems, and everybody does want to protect those. I do give credit to the city for those creative funds that they've found, and sometimes that is through sponsorships, grants, whatever the case may be. And I think we need to continue being creative because the budget is tight, as everybody's touched on this evening. And I did want to end with Mr. Marsh. We really can't thank our troops enough. I think many of them, beyond serving abroad and in many cases domestically, they come home and they're our first responders. They work in law enforcement, so they defend us abroad. They've defended us at home, and my thanks to every one of them. I didn't realize it was 77% of the population, and that's a tremendous amount of the citizens here in Englewood and just generally across America. So a lot of people to thank for that, and I really appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Sierra.
Thank you, everyone, for making it out tonight. I do have another council request regarding Mr. Reed's bringing in the sign. Just kind of curious about how that made it into the city of Englewood. I'm thinking just because it is on Jefferson, that maybe it's not an Englewood-approved sign, but I'm very curious about that aspect of it and just trying to get down to the bottom of that. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. Ms. Smith, thank you for bringing to our attention also the rental rates. I was unaware of that as well. Ms. Hoffman, as always, thank you very much for coming and speaking to us tonight. As Member Cuesta stated, we're still looking into the flood issues and how we need to get that resolved as soon as possible. Speaking to Ms. Bailey last week as well, she brought that up as a major concern, and so definitely want to get an action plan in place in order to get that all alleviated. Let's see if there's anyone else. Regarding the parks, Laura and Olivia, thanks for coming out tonight. Obviously, I'm a parent as well to a 6-year-old, so making it out to the parks frequently is something I enjoy, even during this cold weather when I don't want to be out there, but he definitely does. So I definitely appreciate you speaking out. And Mr. Marsh, thank you very much for your service. I can't thank you enough, and I actually wish you had more time to speak. Love to hear more about it. So thank you very much to you and also your father for your service. Really appreciate it.
Councilmember Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. Assistant Deputy Hargrove.
Interim Deputy City
Yes.
Manager. If we just read her sign, I guess it would be easier.
Madam Hargrove, would you mind also adding to the council request from Member Sierra? Is there a way that we can sort of find out what the inventory on those signs is across the city? Mr. Reed mentioned he didn't know if there were any others, and I'm curious as well, since we're already doing some digging around. Thank you to all of you who came and spoke. This is one of my favorite parts of council meetings, hearing from citizens and people who have vested interest in the city. So just thank you very, very much. Mr. Marsh, especially, thank you. Not especially, but yes, especially. Thank you very much for your service, and thank you for sharing that bit of information with us. Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes, I'd like to thank everyone that came out tonight to speak about everything, the budget, the code enforcement issues, EAF, the comp plan. These are things that we all need to address, and the park situation, that also, I think, I appreciate them working on that and what Friends of Englewood Parks are doing. We do have a lot of budget issues, and that's just one of many. Elise, I also want to thank you for coming out tonight, and I wish you well in your new business. And we are going to work on helping you as much as we can, because our businesses in this city, your success is really our success as a city. And so we appreciate that. Scott, I also want to thank you for the history lesson and just the reminder of all those vets out there that have protected us. And I, too, thank you for your service and your father and any other vets that are out here. I just thank you for your service and what you've done for us. I have one question, and I don't know, interim deputy city manager, because I've kind of assumed something, but if we could find this out, are we getting a storm report? And I personally assumed it was going to come out after the report comes back from Calibre, but I really do think we need a more detailed report than what we got on the after-action storm report.
I think there's some limitations to what we're able to share because of pending litigation, which limits, some of our responses. To approach the whole subject, perhaps in another study session, is something that I think you might want to consider. What we do know, what we can say, what the study is going to provide us, what the study will not provide us, might be a very good topic to keep the citizens aware of where we are on this.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that some of it could be because of pending litigation. Thank you for that.
Thank you. In the respect for time and everyone's time here, I'm not going to entertain a second round on this here, and would like to take
I need to clarify a council request. I believe that what I asked for, but I don't think that I codified it into a council request, so I just want to make sure that the emergency manager's report on that flood is provided to this council and to the citizens. Whether there is now any potential pending litigation should not stop us from having information that should have been provided at the time for that report. So if that report does not exist, then I would like to know why the emergency manager did not write a report in a timely manner and provide it to this council and to the public. And if it does, then I would like to see it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have a recess for about 5 minutes and come back to start up with consent agenda items number 9.
No, that's a tough way to go about it.
Lisa, one of the problems. They are very wealthy.
If everyone could take their seats again, council needs to resume. We have a long agenda ahead of us. Mayor Pro Tem, Member Barentine, if we could get going, it'd be great.
midnight.
We are. We actually are on agenda number 8, which is communications, proclamations, and appointments, and we have none. So then we go on to consent agenda items 9. Could I have a motion for consent agenda?
I move to approve consent agenda items 9A1 and 9A2.
I'll second.
Could we have all of them, please?
Martinez.
We need 9A.
9C 1 through 5 is also on there.
B and C.
C 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Member Wing, could you name them all the way down through 9B, 9C, 5?
Oh, good heavens.
Yes.
In addition, 9C1. Are you okay, Member Barentine? Can I help you?
Fine.
9C1, 9C2, 9C3, 9C4, 9C5.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
I'll second.
Right, Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
I would like to pull 9C2, 4, and 5.
9C2, 4, and 5.
Yes.
Anything else from anybody? All right, so we're approving 9A1 and 2, 9C1, 3, and that's it. Councilmember Barentine.
I would like to pull 9C5.
It was already listed. Thank you.
I thought you only said 2.
Thank you. So now what's up for approval is 9A1.
Could you please verify which ones have been
9C1
pulled?
and 3.
Thank you. Could you please verify the ones that got pulled?
9C2, 4, and 5.
Thank you.
So that leaves 9A1, 2, C1, and 3. Please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7 ayes.
Then we'll start with 9C2, waiver of permit and plan review fees for egress windows. Staff recommends that City Council approve by motion a waiver of permit and plan review fees for egress windows. And our Chief Building Officer, Karen Montanez, is here for any questions. Those who have pulled it, could you ask any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
The ordinance itself does not mention the word egress windows.
Correct. The ordinance was about emergency situations, so the flood was what precipitated this. So this was part of that ordinance.
So but it says here the subject is waiver of permit and plan fees for egress windows. If it was part of the other thing, why do we even have to approve this if it doesn't say egress windows in it?
It was, according to Ordinance 17, was temporarily waiving plan review for repair of structures. And then the second ordinance, and I don't have it here, it was CB 26, which just now got approved as an ordinance in their last 30 days. That was for emergency situations.
So it was approved, Ordinance 17 was only from July 24th to October 1st?
Right.
And the one that we're addressing right now is from now till the end of the year? Or is there a date on it?
On the egress windows, yes, it goes to December of next year, of 2019.
Oh, December of 2019.
We agreed to do it for 1 year, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so is that, I don't remember if that date is in the, I just noticed that the egress windows was not in there. So it says...
This isn't part of, the egress windows was not part of the first ordinance. It was for the second ordinance that allows us to, or you as council, to approve waivers of fees in emergency situations or when life safety issues come upon us.
Okay, so it's Council Bill 26 that we're addressing right now, and is the date of December of 2019 in here?
Yes, on the analysis.
Assistant clarification.
Okay.
I think the way it was presented might be a little bit confusing, but as you recall, you approved an ordinance amending Title 7, Chapter 7 by adding Section 9, and why you did that was so that you wouldn't have to have an ordinance like the first one, which was waiving fees, which was an ordinance for one event. So you changed your code. Your code now allows two separate things to happen by mere motion instead of having to do an ordinance. One of those is if there is an emergency event, if the council designates an emergency event, then by regular motion they can waive building, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing permit fees or plan review costs to expedite repair, and that assist with the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Subsection B of that ordinance says that after recognizing a specifically identified danger or harm within the community, the City Council may authorize by regular motion waiver of building, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing permit fees or plan review costs to repair and renovate residential, commercial, and public structures as identified. And that was to provide for those times when the city recognizes an overarching issue that may have been recognized as part of the emergency event, but didn't arise because of the emergency event. And that's where they're bringing the change to the egress windows rules, because the egress windows, or lack thereof, that wasn't caused by the emergency event, but the recognition that that's an issue within the city became, the City Council was made aware of it really at that time. So this is authorized under that code change that you approved about 2 months ago.
Okay, so then just one other question. Do we then keep track of the date things expire someplace else?
Yes, that will have to be maintained within the Community Development Department. So you're authorizing by motion that there can be this waiver of egress window fees, let's say. That has to be monitored within that department, and when the authorization the council is given ends, then the waiver ends. So it's on their department at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Berentine.
In neither Bill 21 nor 26 do I see egress specified. So is it everything that's covered under that chapter? Because that's a lot more than just the egress windows. And the confusion comes in because the summary is specific to the egress windows, and what we're approving here is much more far-reaching.
Just a moment, I want to look and see what staff asked you to approve.
Which I don't have a problem with if that's what's necessary to do it, but the verbiage is stated almost the same for several of the paragraphs that I think brought up the concern. And I don't see egress specifically in either one of them, but if they end up being covered in the more far-reaching, overreaching statement of what this building code is, then that would be fine.
I think you're being asked to restate exactly what the motion is being asked for.
Motion is just to waive permit and plan review fees for egress windows.
Okay.
And that would be permitted under that ordinance, the same one I was just discussing with Mayor Pro Tem.
I understand what you're trying to accomplish. This is the bill that we end up passing. This seems much more far-reaching than just egress windows. So if we pass this, then Chapter 2, Title 8 of the Englewood Municipal Code adopts the following and it would be all of what's listed there that we're voting on to go ahead and do the permitting on. That's how I'm reading this, not just egress windows. It's not what it says.
And that ordinance was passed 2 months ago.
Okay. The same for 26 that's here. It's the same verbiage for this paragraph here. It's the same thing. So
You've already approved both of those ordinances.
Mm-hmm.
You're only being asked this evening to, staff is recommending that City Council extend by a regular motion the expiration date for the temporary waiver of permit and plan review fees as those fees were established in the Ordinance 17. So it's basically renewing the waiver that you approved previously.
And my question is that does it cover more than egress windows? Because that's what it looks like.
Exactly what was covered in Ordinance number 17. Ordinance number 17 does not refer to egress windows. So no, it only covers those things that were set forth in Ordinance number 17.
Thank you. Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor. Allow me to get to my notes here. Thank you, Ms. Montanez. So it appears that since July 25th, 2018, 22 folks have been granted those permits. And it appears from what I've gathered that this will apply retroactively. Will the city reach out to those 22 parties and inform them?
We will issue refund checks, and then we will also send out to the people that pulled the permits, which in most cases were the contractors. And we will also send out letters to the homeowners letting them know that that refund has been issued.
Very good. So they don't even need to do anything. Those will just automatically be reissued. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Could someone move to approve 9C2?
My question still hasn't been answered, so I would like to ask again, is everything that's in the paragraph, are we passing 26 tonight or 21? Is this bill to pass which one? 21 or 26 for council bill, or are they both combined?
26 was passed already.
Okay.
Months ago.
Then tonight, are we voting on the 21 language? Council Bill number 21, is that what we're voting on then?
No, 21, I believe, was for the waiver of the extension of the fee waiver.
Okay.
For the flood victims.
Okay, and the verbiage in those included more than just egress windows?
Correct, on 21 it did.
Thank you. Okay, and then so now all we're actually dealing with is the time on the two that we passed before. And both of the ones we passed before were much more far-reaching than just egress windows.
Correct. This motion is specifically for egress windows.
Okay, we're not going to go backwards. I think mine's at least going to stand for the record so people who are trying to do this could have some kind of understanding of what we're doing here.
Thank you very much for answering. I have a motion to approve this.
Can I ask one more question for clarification purposes?
Sure, yes, go ahead.
What we're doing, and maybe some of this is just a statement, what we're basically doing is just...
Please ask a question and we'll go on because we may have some conversation now that we've opened it up. I would like to talk about it. So if you could ask a question, let's
so the question is, are we only lengthening, we're not changing the ordinance. We're changing the length of time for egress windows. Is that correct?
Yes, we're just allowing for the waiver of fees for egress windows to be from July 25th of 2018 to December 31st of 2019.
Okay, and then the building department will maintain, or community development will maintain that information.
Correct.
It applies to the same ordinance, it's just the length of how long the egress windows are going to be.
Correct.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
All right. Now could I have a motion to approve 9C2?
I move to approve 9C2.
Thank you.
Second that.
Member Wink seconded it. Councilmember Barentine.
Then it appears that we're not actually extending the entire ordinance for both of these, that we're much more far-reaching for egress windows. We're actually diminishing it to only include egress windows for the extended period of time. And in that I would disagree. I think that we would owe those people who are trying to recoup from this storm the time for all of the repairs that they needed to do. That's what we promised them. So not just for the egress windows. So my initial concern on this is exactly that. I think that we're sending a message, or trying to send a message, that we're extending the grace that we gave for people to go ahead and rebuild from that storm, which was not just egress windows. And now we're actually limiting it and just to the egress windows for the end of the year. And I think that we should be extending the entire piece of grace that we gave, not just the egress windows. So I think that there was some legitimate confusion here.
Councilmember Barentine, it's not till the end of this year, but the next full year is what we decided as a council to ask them to bring forward. So that's what we're voting on tonight. If we want to change, we are right now with the other ones we have up until the end of this year. Is that correct? Yes. So we have what we're doing tonight is saying that we will allow for egress windows for everyone, anyone in the city who wants to do this, regardless of whether they have storm issues or not. I think our desire, and that's why I'm very much supportive of this. If we want to extend the other ones, I'm fine with doing that as well. For anyone who's in the storm area that we know still hasn't done this, I have no trouble with that, but I don't want to hold this one up tonight. I want to make sure that we go forward with the egress windows. And I also want to ask, or make sure that we are going to have some sort of a communication. I heard before that, yes, there will be something in the citizen and a number of other ways, so I just...
The citizen that just came out,
yes, it had
to get
one.
much into that, but I already have drafted something for the next citizen and then also something for the website.
Excellent.
Well, hopefully we can review it. It'll be a little clearer because I'm still a little confused on how we've handled this, but as long as it makes it clear to people that what we've done and that we're giving it for all of the construction and not just the egress windows, because this...
Tonight we're voting on the egress windows. I'm going to call
clarification.
I think there's nothing else. Please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is 9C4, award contract to Security Central for security system of the Englewood Police Department headquarters. Staff recommends that council award by motion a contract to Security Central, Inc. in the amount of $168,602.21 to furnish and install a hosted keyless entry system, card readers, and burglar alarm systems for specific areas. Right-of-way Services Manager Larry Nimmo is here to answer questions for those who wanted them answered. Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Actually, what is very interesting, the question that I had when I read through this the first time, or the concern that I have, is that no other bids were solicited, that the current provider staff is satisfied, therefore no other vendors were considered. Then when I was reading later in the packet, I found the policy manual for conflicts of interest. And in there is sole source purchases. And it says, a sole source purchase eliminates the competition for bids and is often subjected to intense scrutiny by the public and suppliers of goods and services. Sole source purchases should be made only when a vendor has a product or a service that is unique, such as its product specification or service are such that no other vendor can provide a comparable service or product that would offer the same result or reasonably meet city requirements. Generally, the product or services is unique, specialized, or proprietary. Sole source purchases should be rare, as most goods and services can be procured from a variety of vendors. Competition between vendors ensures the city is receiving the best price and quality. Departments are responsible for ensuring the validity of sole source purchases and providing adequate documentation for all sole source purchases. So why did we not go out for competitive bids?
Again, and this is the case of with both these and Presidio, they are our existing supplier. They currently host, that's these badges and our keys and everything. They do this building, they do all the rest of the buildings. We simply wanted to maintain that continuity through the new police building.
But maintaining the continuity and soliciting other bids to see what it would cost us from someone else.
Are you suggesting that we should look at it as a complete package throughout the city, or just separate the police building?
Well,
that was kind of what I thought was.
Right. The police building is brand new, right? I mean, we're putting brand new security system in the police building.
Yeah, based on the system that we're currently running through the rest of the city.
So does the rest of the city have keys to the police department?
No, the hosted keys are the special keys. When I say that, do you know what key I'm talking about?
Well,
These keys?
okay, no, no.
Yeah, that's the key system that we're putting in. This is all tied into Security Central, who currently maintains this system for us as well, as far as the whole empire, everywhere else where this is done, and the same thing with getting the badges to allow people in and out of certain areas.
Are there other suppliers that would provide the same equipment?
Yeah, we could. I mean, yes. As far as I know, there's other security suppliers. We were staying consistent with what we're already doing. We've got a company that does very well for us, and we don't have any problems. And it's not just this equipment. It is also, there's a contract involved, which will be coming, because I think it renews next year, for the actual security services themselves, the hosted solutions and stuff. That's more Dan Long's, the facilities groups thing. We were trying to maintain a system that works with what we already have, so we're not trying to rechange everything again.
Okay, so we couldn't have maintained with a different
No, it's
vendor?
It's the hosted keys possibly, but again, we would have had to set up another vendor completely to run only the police building itself.
Okay, I do have some questions about why. I think that's the problem we've gotten into over the years with some other things, is we keep using the same vendor and we never go out and get competitive bidding against them. Maybe they would lower their price. So anyway, it's just a concern that I have.
So I guess, could we maybe draw from this, should we take a look at the entire city system and see if there's some alternatives?
Replacing the entire city system is going to cost a lot more than doing just the police building.
It is.
And this only came up because we're building a new police building. So that was just my question. Thank you.
Councilmember Bernstein?
Larry, the section that the Mayor Pro Tem read still applies.
It does.
It still applies. And whether you have a contractor who's already doing the entire city or not, that section still applies. And that's in there for a reason. And one of the reasons, I believe, is to make sure that we regularly are looking at things so that we just don't get stuck with somebody or that they have a monopoly. Nothing in that it's expeditious or convenient eliminates the section of the policy that she read that the city runs under. And that's important, and we've got to follow that. I think if it needs to go to bid, it needs to follow the process. And it's probably just good practice for that. Like I said, I mean, we can find exceptions to always not follow the process and procedures or the rules, but that's, like I said, nothing changes that. So I would like to see, I don't think bidding this out would preclude them from doing the other things in the city that they already did, because this is a separate bid. And so as a separate bid, it could have gone out, and I think that would make people feel more comfortable. Legitimately, you see what we're under too, if citizens can come to us with that and notice that and have a concern with that, then this council should be paying attention to it too, because that's who we're representing. So I hope you understand in the spirit it's meant, and I hope that we can just follow this from in the future.
Okay. No, it's, I want to go back and talk to some other people about it too, because it's, the two that I brought are systems that we're running right now, and that's why we just went ahead and brought them in, and because they're already connected.
And I'm not criticizing that.
I
really am
I
not.
agree with, maybe we need to take a hard look at that and stop that.
Okay. And I'm not,
You're right.
and I'm not
Councilmember
criticizing that. I understand it.
Tied in. Okay.
Next is Councilmember Sierra.
Yeah, to piggyback off the Mayor Pro Tem, at the very least, I would have liked to see an RFP that would have listed out the requirements that we had as a city, right? That has to work with the current systems in place. And if nobody else comes back and says that we can't do the work based off of that, at the very least, it provides us documentation that we can go back to our citizens and let them know that it's not feasible. So I guess one question, if we were to ask for that type of information, how quickly can we get it back?
process for an RFP would probably be 60 days.
Okay.
30 to 60. I mean, maybe we could get one out in 30 days by the time we got it out and got bids back and everything. And then, to be honest, I would have to honestly make some inquiries to make sure that we could do it. And I guess the question would be, so you would say that if we had to install a whole new system, the backbone of it all and the computer and a new company to actually run it, that would be what you would prefer us to do?
No, actually, so the only thing that I'm looking for is to just, our requirements, we already have a security system in place in all the other city offices or city buildings.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking is, we put out an RFP that states, but the police department needs to work with the current infrastructure that we have in place. Security-wise, just seeing if there's any other vendors that can provide that level of security for just the police department without redoing anything else. That's my only ask.
Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor. And, this is something that citizens are raising, and I would ask the question to the city attorney, should this have gone out for bid?
Under our current policy and how that is interpreted through charter, actually, that if something is going to cost more than a set amount of money, it should go out for bid unless it is a sole source product.
This was $34,439 to just have gone out to bid.
It comes in underneath the charter's $50,000 for capital.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, there was not an obligation to get a bid on this product.
I apologize. I was looking at the wrong one. Are you looking at the 168,000?
Yes. I believe that we're looking at, and pardon me, I am on the wireless advanced communications, correct?
No.
The WAC.
Security Central.
Security Central.
Excuse me. Okay. So in that same case, that one is 169. Let me get over to that note or whatever that came in at. So we're above that 50,000 threshold. Should that have gone out for bid?
If it is, there are two exceptions. One is sole source, and one is that if there is a state or federal contract that has already done bidding of those two kinds of things, in those two cases you can avoid RFPs. But other than that, you should be going out for an RFP.
And this isn't just to put this particular situation on the spot. I think that it's a concern that has arisen, enough times now. So in the case of sole source, do we need to justify that in some manner? It would seem to me we need to defend that. If we're not going to send it out to bid, we need to be able to say that this was sole source, thusly we did not put it out to bid.
Yes.
Is there typical protocol for doing that?
How I've seen that happen since I've been here is a statement either in the documentation that's presented that this is a sole source. The last couple of items when it was a sole source, they actually included a sole source letter, but usually it's just noted within the initial overview of the staff information. So if you're asking, is there a specific document? There's not a specific document.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nemo. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Let's vote. Oh, we did have a second on that, right? I think we did, didn't we? Or did we?
We did not have a motion or a second.
We do?
We did
A motion or a second.
Please, let's have a motion for 9C4. Which is the award contract to Security Central for Englewood Police Department headquarters. Do I hear a
move to approve agenda item 9C4?
In a second?
I'll second.
All right. Councilmember Barentine.
I appreciate the work you do. I greatly do, and I understand the way that this happened. But we really, in order to avoid problems in the future, need to make sure that we're following these things. It's very clear, even for emergency purchases, the lack of planning or non-compliance with the city's purchasing policy is not a valid reason. So if we could just kind of bring this in line. And so with all due respect to you, I'm going to have to vote no on this. Thank you.
Councilmember Cuesta.
You bet. Thank you. I think that we have an obligation to the citizens to think that we are shopping around and we're spending their money as wisely as we can and we're getting the best deal that we can. We all do that in our personal finances. I'm sure every citizen has to do that in their personal finances as well. And so I don't want to lose the faith of the citizens that we're not at least pursuing the contracts when available. And if they're not, we go sole source, but just that we have the justification to do that. And I think it's something that we really should be more mindful of going forward, and that certainly includes myself as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Yes, I appreciate what you're doing and all that you've done. Is there any way that some checking could be done before we send it out to RFP to see whether or not, as Councilmember Sierra suggested, that if there's anybody out there that would do something that works with us? I mean, if that comes back, I guess what I'm asking, is it possible that we could table this till the next council meeting to get answers to that question?
In all fairness, I couldn't answer that. I mean, I would have to go find out. So
okay.
I'm kind of working off of a backbone that said, this is the system we've been using. We want to maintain that because that's what we're running. That's what, unfortunately, that was the assumption or everything that I've been working off of.
Okay, and I do appreciate that. I do appreciate all that you do for us. But in the interest of the citizens, I really need to vote no also. So anyway, thank you very much.
Member Sierra.
Am I still allowed to ask a question?
Sure, why not?
So in terms of just, I just lost my train of thought in terms of the question. How important is timing for us to approve this tonight?
Very.
Give us your timeline.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we last week held the 100-day meeting, which means we're 100 days from completing that building. And I'm here tonight with 3 contracts. I'll be back in 2 weeks with 4 more. Any of the items that we have that are not something that we're already working with an existing system within the city, they're going out to bid. I mean, that's what we do.
Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you. I agree some additional documentation would have been helpful for this, but I had the same question too about if we don't decide on this tonight and go out for an RFP process, how much further out would that push the building finish timeline? Several months, I'm assuming, at least.
I would have to talk to the GC about it and see how that all fits, but yes, that potential exists, and then there's costs involved in that as well.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Please vote.
All votes have been cast. Oops, Sierra. Sorry.
Didn't light up.
It didn't light up. So can we do it one more time? Sorry. There we go. Perfect. All votes have been cast. Let the record show 4 ayes, 3 nays. The 3 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell, Councilmember Barentine, Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you. Moving on to 9C5, the award contract to Presidio Networked Solutions, LLC for surveillance cameras at the Englewood Police Department headquarters. Here again is Mr. Larry Nimmo, who's going to answer questions. Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
I have the same question on this one, and so I'm assuming the answers are going to be the same. I mean, well, I know that, but surveillance cameras are a little bit different than the security system. So could we get an individual security system over in the new police building?
And, I would say yes. I mean, I don't, but I won't say that with all confidence because I don't know. I would have to ask that question of the IT group. The Avigilon system that we run right now is all done through them. So I would have to actually sit down with them and say, could we get another system, scrap the Avigilon system and come back with something else?
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Member Barentine.
Was this reviewed by the department director, by the city attorney and city manager?
The council communique?
Right, yes. They all looked at it?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's the same problem. So all those people looked at it, and then it's the same problem. And it specifically says that the lack of planning, even for an emergency purchase, the lack of planning or noncompliance with the city's purchasing policy is not a valid reason. And if those people had the chance to look at it, then we should have had an opportunity to do that. And we keep, not just with your situation, but we keep getting put into positions where it's like, well, time, so I'm very disappointed that this council can go ahead and violate its policies based off of these kind of situations. It's disconcerting time and time again. So, again, I appreciate the work that you did. I think you understand where I'm coming from, and I greatly appreciate that. I really do. Thank you.
Do you have a motion to approve 9C5?
Move to approve agenda item 9C5.
I have a second.
I'll second.
All right, any comments? Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Neiman, I'm sure it goes without saying that everybody up here appreciates the work you do, as well as all of staff. I'm going to be voting no on this one again as well. This is another product where cameras are an extremely common product anymore, and I think this is one that should at least be sent out. I mean, I really find it hard to believe that this can't be sole source. I wouldn't think something like security cameras in 2018, almost 2019. And I don't want to vote no on this one. I just want to make sure that the citizens have the confidence that we've got the best deal for their money. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments? I did want to ask you on this one, because where is the sole propriety on this one in the document? There isn't one on this one, is there?
The visual on the entire system is the one that we run at City Hall, Malley, Rec. It's that whole system.
It is.
Also, we're piggybacking off of is that will be on the same system. So when you click on the icon on your computer and bring up a visual on, I can bring up the police department on my computer. I can actually, although we can't see much anymore because all the cameras are kind of hidden, but I understand what you're saying, and I'm trying to process it a different way, but the fact is I was building on systems that were already running, and that's why I chose to go down this path. It's not to say we couldn't have gone out to bid and done other things, but then do we need another hosted solution? How do those systems work? And I didn't get any feedback from IT, who's basically, this is their system that says, hey, we want to do a new system here. We don't like this system. Yeah. This is the system we're running, and this is what's working for us. That's kind of what I'm working off of a little bit.
Thank you. It was my understanding, both of these, last one and this one, that we were doing it because we don't want to change systems. That's really what's going on here. And I think what the question is being asked is if you could have bought the equipment without changing systems. And it sounds to me like the answer to that is no.
No, I don't know that.
But you don't know that for sure.
Know that for a fact.
And I assumed when I read this that was the fact. So I'm going to go ahead and move on this. For myself, I am going to vote yes for it. But I disagree with what's being said that we do this all the time. We do not do this all the time. We go out to bid for almost everything. The places where people have been bringing things up is EAF, and hopefully we will have a good performance review that will show what in the world's gone wrong there. But we are not consistently doing this. Matter of fact, tonight we're going to see some. So I appreciate the work you've done. I want to get this done. I think what held us up too as well is how we're going to fund this. And you've been waiting on that from us, right? How we were funding this? This is coming through.
No, this is
straight up.
Yeah, this
is
right
not part of the
project
premium.
Right.
This is on the budget.
Yeah,
no,
this is on the budget.
Part of the premium. The financial side, I showed you where we took that out. It's out of, where that is. They reallocated money out of the contingency fund to help pay for some of these items.
So I'm going to ask the city attorney one more time. When you were reading this, did you assume that it was a sole propriety on this too, or?
I did assume it was a sole proprietor, as a sole provider, because the city's already set up on certain systems, and if in order to go out for new systems, that it will require additional costs across the city. So I understood that in order to stay within the constraints of our currently set up systems, these were the choices that we had. So that's how I interpreted that, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Berentine.
I appreciate the additional information, considering that you are required to go ahead and review any of the contracts that are over $25,000 along with the department head and the city manager. Then we either need to have the justification and the documentation to show that it is a sole provider and why, because we may get even a better price from our current provider if we put it out to bid. And I think it feels like it happens all the time, Mayor, because it should never happen at all. It's very clear what's written here. I'll read it again. The lack of planning or non-compliance with the city's purchasing policy is not a valid reason, not for emergency purchases and certainly not for this. So if we can justify sole provider, then let's do that. But if we're not, and I don't believe in one of these, I don't believe in either one of these that may be the case, but it isn't what's being provided. So I think that I feel like it happens all the time because it should have never happened at all, and I do not believe this council should ever go ahead and violate this policy. Thanks.
Thank you, and I appreciate the clarification. I would love to have justification in the future ones, and I don't believe we're violating policy in this at all, given the answers that the city attorney gave us. Please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show. We got 4 ayes, 3 nays. The 3 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell, Councilmember Berentine, Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nimmo. Agenda item 10, public hearing. We have none. Agenda item 11, ordinances, resolutions, and motions. A, approval of ordinances on first reading. CB 37, IGA between the City of Englewood McClellan Reservoir Foundation and Douglas County. The Board of Englewood McClellan Reservoir Foundation, known as EMRF, recommends City Council approve by ordinance an IGA between City of Englewood McClellan Reservoir Foundation and Douglas County. Staff Utilities Director Tom Brennan is here to answer questions.
Good evening, Mayor, members of Council. I'm before you this evening representing the Englewood McClellan Reservoir Foundation Board to recommend approval of an IGA with Douglas County to meet the requirements of a letter of credit for the construction of Phase 2 of Plaza Circle. I'll give you a quick overview of this roadway since inception. The sale of the land to RTD in March 2008 required EMRF to enter into a subdivision improvement agreement with Douglas County for the construction of this roadway. In January of 2016, the lease with MKS Residential required EMRF to share the cost of Phase 1 of this roadway for access to their site. Then, City Council approved the transfer of $800,000 from the later fund to EMRF for the construction in the 2016 budget. In June of this year, Council approved a cost-sharing agreement with RTD for the construction of this roadway. This IGA will move the roadway project forward. Do you have any questions for me at this time?
Councilmember Berentine.
What prevented you from doing the letter of intent? Is that because Englewood McClellan Reservoir Foundation is listed as the developer?
Correct.
Is that what I'm sorry.
We are the developer of the site because we are the owner.
So that's why you couldn't provide the letter? Because it kind of skirted around.
The city cannot provide a letter of credit. We don't do that.
The city is doing the IGA, but it says the Englewood McClellan Reservoir Foundation can't, and that's why I wanted to know why you, as a separate organization in the Englewood McClellan Reservoir Foundation, could not do it. Why? Provide a letter of credit.
We'd have to get a title company to put up a letter of credit, and that's not in our capabilities because we're backed by the city.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's just specifically listed out several times, and I was confused at why the two were that different, unless it was that just because you guys were the developer. But
Yep.
it's
And also, when the county doesn't recognize EMRF, that's why the city has to.
All right, that makes
To
more
sign
sense.
it.
And what they wrote in the contract, then that makes more sense, because they keep, okay. That's fine.
Great. Could I have a motion to approve 11A1, CB 37 IGA between City of Englewood, Englewood McClellan Reservoir Foundation, and Douglas County?
I move to approve 11A1.
And may I have a second?
I second.
Councilmember Sierra seconded it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show. 7 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is 11A2, CB 36 Arapahoe Combined RMS IGA. Staff recommends the approval by ordinance of the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Englewood and Arapahoe County, Cherry Hills Village, Greenwood Village, Littleton, Sheridan, and South Metro Fire to utilize Arapahoe County's contract with Tritech Software Systems to purchase additional required licensing and to use Arapahoe County's Inform Records Management System as a single combined RMS system to be hosted and operated by Arapahoe County pursuant to the terms of the intergovernmental agreement. Here to present is Police Commander Vance Fender. Thank you.
So tonight I'm presenting the IGA between Tritech Software Systems and all of those other jurisdictions in Arapahoe County regarding the RMS system that we procured funding for last month through bond premium, and I can answer any questions you have.
Great. Any questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Move to approve 11A2.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Councilmember Wink? Any conversation? Discussion? No? Please vote. Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Russell has something she wants to say.
This is going to be with bond premium. My question is, the rest of these people are all going together at the same time to do this?
At some point in 2019, yes, ma'am.
In 2019. So what happens if we don't do it now? I mean, this isn't just us deciding to do this. It's all these other entities also.
Yes, ma'am. All of the CEOs that were involved in the Tritech CAD project from last year also worked with Tritech to develop the Inform RMS system that we're going to be utilizing. So all of those CEOs got together and worked with Tritech to have this seamless RMS solution throughout the county so we can have cost savings throughout all of the organizations in the county, as well as a regional records management system, which would allow interoperability, I apologize, throughout the entire county, allowing us to share data.
Okay. And I mean, according to the packet, it also was suggesting that our current thing is not going to, our current system isn't going to last that much longer anyway.
We don't believe so, no, ma'am.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Please vote.
Sorry. Let the record show. 7 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is 11B1, approval of ordinances on second reading. This is CB 29, 2019 budget ordinance. Staff recommends City Council approve an ordinance adopting the 2019 budget. Acting Finance and Administrative Services Director Maria Sabata is here to answer any further questions.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Over the past several months and over the past several weeks since I've been in this role, staff has had the opportunity to listen to and answer questions here at the podium and then also through council requests. So this is the second reading of the 2019 budget. Staff recommends City Council approve an ordinance on second reading adopting the 2019 budget. With that, I'll open it to any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
When I was looking at the final page again today, The total of all funds in the budget, the source of funds is $103,675,290. The total uses of funds is $128,061,264. We heard some people this evening say that we have a spending problem and we need to cut spending. The budget is not balanced. How we're using other funds, but you can't spend all of your savings. There's going to come a day when there is no more funds to make up a difference that is that huge. And I mean, if you look at on all the documentation, almost every single fund, there's a few where we have more revenue than expenses, but most of them are more expenses than revenues. I am inclined, I met with a group of constituents after our last meeting, and they came up with a recommendation. And I believe that this recommendation is a very good idea. And their recommendation was that we cut spending. They gave me a deal anywhere between 2% and 5%. I believe we ought to cut the spending by 5% across the board, and all departments make that cut, and that 5% should go into the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, so that when we have the money, when we have the report back, we will have begun saving the money to make a capital improvement. This is something that is very important. Someone has died, and we want to fix this problem before someone dies again. And so I would propose that we make an amendment to cut the spending, leave the budget at the same level that it is, but cut spending across the board, and put the 5% savings into the Stormwater Fund.
Councilmember Berentine?
You made a comment, being new to the position, that, it's a lot to digest in a couple of weeks or a month. And that's all we have with the actual numbers. It's all the public has with the actual numbers is a couple of weeks before that public hearing happens. And I think they did a pretty good job of trying to digest a lot of this. There were a lot of problems that were brought up. So I focused on just one issue, and that was the $450,000 that we had for EVE. That we're budgeting for them, not them to us. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about an outside entity that we budget money for. I was told that of that $450,000 listed for personnel costs, that was wrong. It's not really personnel costs. That $190,000 of that's personnel costs, and $360,000 is CAM charges. Then I asked for show me why we budgeted the $360,000 for the CAM charges, and they said, well, we bill, and you answered that question. We bill, and then we break up the CAM charges amongst the people, the stakeholders, and we pay our percentage. So I asked for the bill. Don't have a bill. We do it by journal entry. 2 weeks later, then I get an answer that the journal entries only add up to, through September, $188,000, and they are the same amount every single month. What I was going to do was going to ask you if you could find the $90,000 and you could justify the $360,000. I'd actually vote for this budget, but it's not possible. You can't. And if anybody on this council can, I'd like them to speak up now, because all of the answers that we've gotten just keep us down a rabbit trail of somewhere else and not getting answers. Nothing adds up to $90,000 worth of personnel costs. We get stuff for $45,000 or $26,000. Every answer ends up being different, and that's very concerning. It's concerning that the line item that we're basing this off of is not an accurate document. So I didn't mean to beat up on that particular issue, but I had to take one thing and just try to figure out where we're at with it. And it's not right, and it doesn't jive up. And so I can't vote for this budget because it's not the only thing that's wrong. And I am a little ashamed that a lot of people in the community take a lot more time to look at this budget and ask questions than this council. I hope we can do it better next year. I hope we can start looking at real numbers more next year, but we need to get it a lot sooner than 2 weeks before the public hearing to try to deal with this. It's not a good process, and it didn't end up with a good product, so I can't vote for it. That certainly isn't on your shoulders. You weren't here for most of that, and the people that it should be on the shoulders of have left. So I hope that you'll understand where I'm sitting with this and the concerns that I still have. Thanks.
Director Zapata, is there anything you wanted to address?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sierra?
When we look at the 2019 budget, I definitely want to start meeting with the directors at some point here in early 2019, just get an understanding of all the line items that go into, maybe not to that detail because it is a lot, but I do understand that we do need to make some type of spending cuts at some point in order to start chipping away at some of the capital projects that we have. That being said, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm just kind of curious about the 2 to 5%. The way that I understand it, we can't. Those dollars are being expended from the general fund. So my understanding is that we wouldn't be able to expend those, or those savings that we would get from that 2 to 5%. We cannot transfer that to the storm drainage fund. Is that my understanding? Am I correct in that understanding, or we can't transfer what our savings would be into the stormwater drainage fund, basically?
So I'm not able to answer that question directly. I think I have heard that as well, but I would want to verify that with you.
That's my only question. Thank you.
It's an enterprise fund.
Right.
So it's separate from the general fund, but you can transfer money into an enterprise fund.
But only 10%. Which at this point would be about 70, what is it, like 65,000, 10%?
And I'm not the math guy.
Right. So the revenues for the stormwater drainage fund is about 700,000, if I remember correctly, somewhere around there. It's less than $1 million, but so 10% of that would be significantly less. So,
just for clarification,
is this a point of information?
Point of information.
You have a question?
Can we can transfer money into an enterprise fund? We just can't transfer money out. Is that what you said, or?
You can transfer money out of an enterprise fund for loans between enterprise funds. There are ways that you can do this, but the cleanest understanding is that enterprise funds operate separately from the general fund. They're supposed to be supported by the rate or fee that is assessed in order to support them. So they're supposed to be kept separate. Are there ways that you might be able to finagle between general fund? Yes. Is that supposed to happen? No.
Okay, so the simple answer is no. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I had a little different perspective, so I really do appreciate that. All right, let's hear a motion to approve on second reading the 2019 budget ordinance, CB 29. Do I hear a motion to approve CB 29, 2019 budget ordinance?
Move to approve, Council Bill 20. Yes.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All right. Please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show. 5 yeas, 2 nays. The 2 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell, Councilmember Barentine.
All right, on to 11C2, 11B2, CB30, CPWRP 2019 budget ordinance. Staff recommends City Council approve an ordinance adopting the 2019 budget for the South Platte Water Renewal Partners, formerly known as the Littleton Englewood Wastewater Treatment Plant. Again, Acting Finance Administrative Services Director Maria Sabata is here.
Thank you very much again. This is CB30, the South Platte Water Renewal Partners budget ordinance. Staff is asking City Council to approve. On second reading, the proposed bill for an ordinance adopting the 2019 budget.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Berentine?
I appreciate that put you in a spot last time, but you had plenty of help with it. And I think the mayor was right. It was 13 minutes of trying to get one question answered for a foundation, and we need to make sure that we have a much better grasp of our budget. For this one in particular, it's obvious that the $4.7 million is coming out of this fund, not some other fund. And so if we could try to make sure that we're, in the future, as upfront and honest as we can be about what's going on, because my concern was that the ending balance in that sewer fund was created a contractual requirement for us to go ahead and raise rates on our citizens when they were told from the beginning with the biogas, which is what the $4.7 million coming out of that on page 306 is for, was not going to go ahead and raise their rates. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And I don't like the citizens being lied to for that piece of moving forward, but council played a part in that. In the end, when we're dealing with these, when I try to get an answer and somebody says the money's actually coming from another fund, I believe people. And when I ask whether that fund is, I'm just trying to get the answer. So I'm not trying to do some painful process. I'm just trying to follow up on the information I'm being told so that I can properly represent my constituents. And in that was to at least acknowledge the fact that we took the money out of that fund and that we lowered the reserve enough that we triggered the study, the rate, that what's going to end up being a rate increase on our citizens that they were promised not going to happen. So it wasn't intended to get anybody or do anything. I thought the information would be fairly easy. So I wanted to make sure that that was reiterated again. And when we have that kind of difficulty, just coming to simple conversation so that we can get to the issues that we're dealing with and the effects and consequences it has. I have a huge concern. We're below the limit on this. I am not happy with the way that this got handled, and I'm not sure that we even have a good grasp of what's gone on and what's happened here. So that's concerning. And I'm sure that under your tutelage, under your mentor's leadership, that we won't have this conversation again next year. It won't be this situation. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell?
I do have a question. In the revenues and expenditures for the 2019, in the ordinance itself, it says the revenues are $27,359,559. The expenditures are exactly the same. It happens that way every year. It always happens at the beginning, and the ending balance are always the same. What are the chances of that happening in real life? How does that happen? Do you know the answer to why those, and does that include the 7% increase that were already approved?
So the 7%, yes, is included in this number. I cannot answer why it matches exactly, but I assure you next year you will know the answer. That is the best explanation I can give right now.
Either that or they won't match exactly, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Nothing. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve agenda item 9B2, 11B2. Excuse me. 11B2.
And second? Do we have a second?
A second.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
I would just like to make a statement, and that is I cannot support this because we were assured that the rates would not be increased for the biogas, and that is the exact reason that the rates are being increased, and they're going to be increased more than the 7% that we have already put in the budget. So,
Councilmember Martinez.
I just want to clarify, we were going to be facing a rate increase even without the biogas project, correct? I believe that was brought up several times throughout the last year or two.
That is my understanding, yes, correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Please vote.
We had a motion and a second. I had an additional question.
Councilmember Barentine.
We've
already voted.
Yeah, we can revote.
Well, that's not the way the process goes.
But you
okay.
voted even.
I'd voted 5 minutes ago.
What's your question?
Okay, thanks. Is the 7% increase, was that done, what was the reason that the 7% increase was done?
I guess the best way that I can answer that question is that there has not, my understanding through previous conversations with the director of this fund, is that these rates have not been increased over several years, and there was an evaluation that we should increase the rates. That is the answer that I can give you tonight.
The 7% that we agreed on, didn't that have something to do with the storm that we did?
Go ahead.
So I think you may be referring to the storm drainage fund, and it relates to the per household increase, and that was related to the assessment. So the 7% is different than the increase for this storm drainage fund. The storm drainage fund addresses the issues from the flood. That is a different fee increase.
Right. So those two were separate.
They are
You have an assistant coming up.
Okay. He wasn't necessary, but it's appreciated. I appreciate your.
Go ahead, Peter. Thank you for coming up.
No problem. Peter Van Rye, Director, South Platte Water Renewal Partners. The question about the 7% increase. So both Maria and I came in at the end of this process as it was being developed by my predecessor and her predecessor, and that's how that 7% came about according to the rate model that was built by Maria's predecessor. That was based on input from my predecessor. So we both reviewed that to the degree that we could understand what the model was creating, and it created a 7% increase, which then funded the South Platte, actually funded the entire sewer fund in order to make sure that the fund balance was adequate for this year's budget.
Thank you.
So
that's
the
our
truth.
understanding.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Took a long time.
All right. We have a motion, and let's vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 5 ayes, 2 nays. The 2 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell, Councilmember Barentine.
Next is 11B4, CB31, SPWRP. Oh, sorry, 3. CB28, 2019 Budget Appropriation Ordinance. Staff recommends City Council approve an ordinance adopting the 2019 appropriation. Again, Director Maria Sabata is here to answer questions.
Thank you. Staff ask City Council to approve CB 28, the 2019 Budget Appropriation Ordinance, which authorizes the use of the funds within the 2019 budget. And I'll open it up for questions.
Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve B11B3?
I move to approve 11B3.
In a second.
Second.
Councilmember Barentine.
Just a comment. I don't appropriate money for stuff I didn't vote for, so just that's why I'll be voting against it.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
I cannot appropriate money for a budget that I did not vote for because it's not balanced, so I will be voting no. Thank you.
Please vote.
Barentine. Barentine, you need to vote. Councilmember Barentine.
Please vote. Member Barentine.
Whoa.
You have them
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 5 ayes, 2 nays. The 2 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell and Councilmember Barentine.
Thank you. 11B4, right? CB31, SPWRP 2019 Appropriation Ordinance. Staff recommends City Council approve an ordinance adopting the 2019 appropriation for the South Platte Water Renewal Partners, formerly known as Olton Englewood Wastewater Treatment Plant. And again, Acting Finance and Administrative Services Director Maria Sabata is here to answer questions.
Thank you. Again, the staff recommends City Council approve an ordinance adopting the 2019 appropriation for the South Platte Water Renewal Partners. With that, I'll open it to any questions.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve CB 31 SPR WRP 2019 appropriation ordinance.
Move to approve.
Go ahead.
Agenda item 11B4.
Second. Second. Councilmember Sierra. Any conversation? No discussion. Please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show. 5 ayes, 2 nays. 2 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell, Councilmember Barentine.
On to 11B5, CB 27, establish a 2018 mill levy collected in 2019 ordinance. Staff recommends City Council approve an ordinance establishing the 2018 mill levy to be collected in 2019. Again, Director Maria Sabata is here to answer questions.
Thank you. Staff recommends City Council approve an ordinance establishing the 2018 mill levy to be collected in 2019, as outlined in the memo. With that, I'll open up for any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
The one question that I have is the mill levy is established only to pay our debts or service our debts. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question. In the financial implication section of the memo, you can see that the collection of the property tax will cover the debt service requirements of our general obligation bonds and the 2018 property tax revenue estimate for the general fund. So that's the components of what it covers. So yes, it covers the debt, but it also covers, it goes into general fund operations as well.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve CB 27.
I move to approve 11B5 CB 27, establish the 2018 mill levy.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show. 5 ayes, 2 nays. 2 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell, Councilmember Barentine.
How are we doing, everybody? Ready to keep moving along? Okay, 11C. 11C1, 2019 Community Development Block Grant Application Resolution. Staff recommends that City Council approve a resolution authorizing the submission of an application to Arapahoe County for the City of Englewood's portion of federal fiscal 2019 Community Development Block Grant. Planning Manager Wade Burkholder is here to answer questions.
Good evening to each of you. Wade Burkholder, Planning Manager for the Community Development Department. Staff is recommending the approval of the resolution before you this evening authorizing the submission of an application to Arapahoe County for Englewood's portion of the 2019 CDBG funds in the amount of $115,000. The city is in its 5th decade of applying for CDBG funds, and since 1991 it has been a part of the Arapahoe County Entitlement Program. And in June of this year, Council authorized participation in the Arapahoe County program through 2021. The allocation is proposed for the continuation of the E-Cubed program, which is Energy Efficient Englewood, to provide energy efficient home improvements to low and moderate income residents. These projects would provide increased energy conservation and efficiency in the home. Examples which would include furnaces, window replacement, water heaters, insulation, and so forth in those homes. The dollars as presented would be utilized for projects in 12 owner-occupied single-family dwellings throughout the city. Currently, the Community Development Department has a waiting list of over 20 property owners that are interested in utilizing these funds. The deadline for filing this application with Arapahoe County is November 16th. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Councilmember Barentine.
Brad Powers, last time that we did this, the Community Development Director, acknowledge the concerns, as did the director for the Englewood Housing Authority, the concerns with the affirmatively furthering fair housing that's in there and the communities that are coming under attack with that. Is that last time that this came forward, it was at least acknowledged that there was some hold on that?
There is a continual hold. The HUD has currently completed a comment period of 60 days on that particular portion of this program. They have removed the requirement for the assessment tool for local governments was one of the concerns with the program, in that it was creating an undue burden. And in fact, there were 63% of the applicants that were submitting applications for this program that were automatically rejected because that piece of the application process was found to be not in compliance with that rule. They've actually withdrawn that requirement. And right now, with the review period having been completed, HUD is going back to the drawing table to redo that entire section. So there is no requirement with regard to the affirmatively furthering fair housing regulations that were
all of the additional pieces that are in there.
Right.
I am concerned that it's still in the document and in the contract, of course. But thank you very much for the information.
Thank you. Other questions? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve 11C1.
I move to approve 11C1.
Can I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Councilmember Martinez?
I just want to say I'm really glad that this is coming before us. It's a really valuable program that many of our homeowners benefit from, and I'm glad the funding is still available.
Councilmember Barentine?
I appreciate the information that you had. It's all fun and games until all of a sudden the feds are suing your city and rezoning, and it's not really for a lot of money. So this is a very serious issue. Because it's still in this contract, I will not be voting for it. But I want to acknowledge, sir, the amazing job that you did on this and answering the question and being aware of what's going on and how it could affect our community. I think then the citizens in this council are better protected when we have people who are willing to do that kind of job, and it is appreciated because I know what kind of job it is for me to go ahead and look this stuff up and make myself acquainted with this information and how it could affect us. And I can't tell you what the level of comfort it gives me when we have employees that are willing to do that. The other thing is, compared to the previous information that we've gotten in the previous years, this was amazing what you put together, including obviously information that got used on other stuff, which was the ethics agreement and the purchasing agreements and stuff that reminded us all that we've got rules that we're supposed to be going for. But this was absolutely beautiful what you put together. And if it weren't for that one little sentence, it would have put me at ease to go ahead and vote for it, because I'm still a little concerned what they're going to come forward with. But thank you very much for being as informed as you are. I am so impressed with that. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
I actually want to commend you also in putting this packet together, because when I compared it with the one we got from last year, there is a lot of information in here, and I do greatly appreciate that. I also will not be supporting it just because of that one sentence, and once that sentence gets taken out, I wouldn't have a problem. So thank you very much for all you've done. Appreciate it.
So I have a question for you. If can that one sentence be taken out? So the attorney is going to answer?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right.
County does it.
Let's please vote. I will be voting yes on this. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for our citizens. Sentence or no sentence.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 5 ayes, 2 nays. The 2 nays being Mayor Pro Tem Russell, Councilmember Barentine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and for all your work on this. 11C2, Broken T Golf Course Software Upgrade and Marketing System. Staff recommends that council approve by motion a contract with Billy Casper Golf, LLC, in the amount of $72,200 to provide a golf operations software system integrated with professional marketing support. And Recreation Services Manager Bob Spada is here to present and answer questions. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. As it says, staff is recommending approval of the contract with Billy Casper Golf to provide a golf operations software system integrated with professional marketing support. Broken T Golf Course has used the general recreation management software used by the Englewood Recreation Center and the Malley Senior Center for many years. The golf module of this program, however, does not provide the functionality required to meet the demands of our golf customers in an increasingly digital environment. Billy Casper provides a uniquely integrated system that combines a state-of-the-art digital interface with the marketing expertise and support. It is our goal to increase and improve guest services, improve our marketing and social media awareness, increase usage and increase revenues by approximately 3 to 5% at the minimum, and improve employee morale. The financial part of this is that this will cost $13,400 based on November 15th as a start date for a month and a half. Would be $5,600 for the month of December and $2,800 for the remainder of the month of November. Also, $2,500 for the web design to start up, and $2,500 for travel expenses, training, and setup by Billy Casper. Next year, the cost would be $58,800 for the year through the first year of the contract, which would be November 15th, 2019. At this time, I entertain any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
On the agenda sheet, it says $62,450 is the amount not to exceed. On page 1 of the contract approval summary, it says $72,200.
$72,200 is the $13,400 and the $58,800 for the entire duration of the contract.
I'm having trouble adding that quick in my head. I didn't think that it came up to that. So it's 13.4 and
58.8.
That's 62. No, it's 72. All right. So, what is it coming out of different budget years?
Correct.
So we don't have like a capital projects fund where there's money that will be carried over.
This will be in professional services. We have money budgeted for the remainder of this year, and we have money budgeted for next year for this.
Okay.
And it is our hope we're going to make it up in the revenue that they provide us, yes. And this is an enterprise account.
All right. All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Barentine.
I told you I had questions on it, but it was kind of similar because you're taking it out of 2 budget years, and so when I saw the amount of the contract, you always have an answer. So I appreciate your putting those two together, because when you have a total of $100,000 budgeted for professional services for 2019.
Correct.
The only portion of that that'll come out of that $100,000 for 2019 is the $58,800. That's all. The rest of it's coming out of this year.
Correct.
For the remainder of that. So it was just the breakdown, the way that it looked, just
okay.
Kind of threw me off. So, and this is already in place then now, or
no? We're waiting for
getting
approval.
ready to do this.
We're waiting for approval.
Okay.
Of this, yes.
And are we going to have some feedback from you on whether you think it's accomplishing the marketing, the additional service? Can we get some, at some time after this has been in place a little bit to see whether you think this is,
Sure.
is really having the effect on both personnel and customers?
Yes, we'd be happy to share that with you.
Yeah, that would be great. And thanks for clearing up the money piece of it.
You bet.
Sorry, you were at the end of the packet. My eyes started getting cross-eyed too, so thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve?
To approve 11C2?
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. No further conversation. Let's vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Next is 11C3, SPWRP Building Envelope Condition Assessment Project 2018. The South Platte Water Renewal Partners, owned by Littleton Englewood, recommends that Council approve by motion a professional services agreement with Intergroup Architects, IGA, for consulting services and performance of the Building Envelope Condition Assessment Project 2018, not to exceed the amount of $62,450. This recommendation was approved by the Supervisory Committee on September 20th, 2018. And here to present is Deputy Director. You know my stuff.
It's Blair Corning. It's on that, it's on that next page.
Like, wow, Blair. Yeah, strategic programs. So, Mr. Corning, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Thank you for your time this evening. I just wanted to show a quick slide here. I didn't put together too much of a PowerPoint because it's kind of cut and dry what we're seeking here, but it's building envelopes assessment. So it's an architectural firm to come in and look at things. I think I have a picture here. So things such as building exteriors, facades, doors, windows, roofs is a big one. You know, we have facilities that were built in the 70s, 80s, 90s, sometimes patchwork together, so we really need someone to come in and take a look and see what we need to do first and what needs the most attention and how to space it out and give us some cost numbers on that we can take action on. So we're asking for approval of an agreement not to exceed $62,450 with Intergroup Architects. This was put out on BidNet in, I believe, July of 2018. We received 3 bids and evaluated those bids, and Intergroup Architects came out as the best one to perform those services that we needed. I think that's pretty much it. I think it's important as far as plant operations. You are well aware of the millions of dollars of equipment that are in these facilities. So if you get leaks in the roofs or deterioration, that can cause issues. It's also an employee safety issue as well as just a community aesthetic issue. We don't want to have buildings that look bad and people think that reflects on what we do there. So we're seeking not to exceed amount of $62,450 with Intergroup Architects for a professional consulting services for building envelope condition assessment. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Councilmember Barrington has one.
Have we worked with Intergroup Architects before?
We have not. We checked their references. Our staff checked their references. As far as I know, I've only been there a year and a half or so, but we have not worked with them.
Well, I appreciate the supporting documentation that you put in here so that it could be easily accessed, the process that is in here. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you. I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Have we ever had an assessment like this before on this building?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had, as far as I know, we haven't had a comprehensive assessment on all the buildings. There's 25, depends on what you classify as a building. There's 25 buildings, like 50 structures, so we haven't had a comprehensive look at everything at the same time. We have information in our asset management on certain pieces, but this will give us a comprehensive look and allow us to prioritize projects from that.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
And is this cost shared with Littleton?
Yeah, this is...
Is our portion $62,450, or is that the total?
That's the total,
Okay.
so it would be split 50.
Got it.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the South Platte Water Renewal Partners Building Envelope Condition Assessment Project for 2018, 11C3.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? I did want to say thank you for this, and this is one of those great ones again where we have several bids that you took a look at and rated and gave some great information, so I appreciate it. Please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is 11C4. This is the interim city manager search. Staff recommends that City Council select an option for continuing the process for identifying an interim city manager. Human Resource Director Maria Gonzalez, I believe, is here to help present and answer questions. Just make sure that that microphone works well.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I think so.
I don't have a problem with my voice, so. So the options that we have at this point are: number one, engage a recruiting firm to manage a new search. Expand our initial marketing approach, make a counteroffer to Virginia Eager, offer the position to Wesley Lavanchi, which was our candidate number 2, and offer the position to Dorothy Hargrove, acting deputy city manager. This is a very short presentation. So. The considerations is the timeline and effect on permanent city manager search process. So the longer we take with the interim, the longer we will take with the search for the new city manager. The financial implications if we go back to market, if we go with option number 1, which is engage a recruiting firm, we will have to pay the recruiting fees. If we expand our initial marketing approach, we can go to pay sites we haven't used yet. The value of experience, professional leadership, and the continuity of operations is something that we need to also take into consideration. So I'll be here to answer any questions that you may have.
Council, questions that you might have? If not, what about discussion? Councilmember Martinez.
I don't have questions, but I want to start the discussion. I would prefer to go with option number 5, which is offer the position to Dorothy Hargrove, the acting deputy city manager, and mainly because two reasons. One, I feel like we need to start the position for our permanent city manager sooner than later, and number 2, if we spend the time to hire an interim and we select an interim, I feel like Dorothy's going to have to be doing her position and then also essentially the interim manager position to get the new interim manager up to speed. And by the time that person's up to speed, it's going to be onto somebody else. So I think in the interest of time and also I think the knowledge and skills that Director Hargrove has of the city is invaluable, and we can't get that from an outside person. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Member Martinez. Anyone else? Well, we have one suggestion here that we go with number 5. Would someone like to make a motion? And let me ask you, Director Gonzalez and maybe City Attorney, can we make a motion tonight and decide on this at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Barentine.
I appreciate the comments that Councilmember Martinez made, and I really think that considering the way that this process went, we really need to move forward and get on hiring the city manager. It is my understanding that that the acting interim city manager has agreed to go ahead and do this, and that's why it's part of the presentation. Is there any concern, city manager, city attorney, about having to offer it again to any of the directors again, or since that process already happened? I guess what I'm concerned about is that at some point we did offer to go ahead and put that out there, and we did have some response, but then they withdrew. Is that dictate that we need to do that process again, or have we really already kind of notified people and they had that opportunity previously?
I think you've clearly notified everybody. The other situation that you have that no city council that I'm aware of has had in at least a very, very long time is in the past, when a city manager needed to be appointed, the city council has just always appointed the deputy city manager to step into that job. Mm-hmm. This is the first time you've had both positions open because Dorothy Hargrove has been the acting interim deputy city manager. She really is holding that position that in past years an individual would have just been offered the position.
Well, it was awkward because we had a city manager resign, and then after the resignation, fill a position, and then so I understand that was not well done, but I would like to show the support. I do believe that the interim deputy city manager, and I'm reading that because I don't have it memorized, has done an amazing job so far, given the very quick and kind of unorthodox way that this all happened. You've done an amazing job so far, and I know that it's difficult, and you have my full support, and I would like to make a motion to go ahead and put you in as the acting city manager until we get as we go through this process.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor. I received two sets of questions in the wake of things not going to completion with candidate Egger. The packet that was released this week, if you go to page 8 relating to the interim, it does shed some more light on that to citizens. I would recommend they take a look, and I think it will give greater information on why council was unable to reach a resolution with Ms. Egger and bring her on board. Having said that did not work out. It was a motion or an option to counteroffer. We're not going to. I think that Ms. Hargrove has done a terrific job thus far. She's shown her dedication to the city for many, many years now. And I think that she is beyond, I think, an option that presents us our quickest path to finding that full term manager. I think that she's going to do a terrific job in the meantime, and I'm happy to support her myself. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
I just want to say I think you're doing an amazing job, and it's really been great working with you, and I'm very thankful that you have agreed that you would like to take this position. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I also I appreciate your giving yourself a bit of a dry run. We didn't expect this, of course, but in the long run, I think it's the right thing, and I know that you're going to do a great job in continued fashion as you have in the last month. It's been a month. It probably feels a lot longer than that already. But I also want to make sure that you have all the vacation and time you need to keep yourself well and healthy during this next run, because learning a job and being the interim at the same time, I've done it 3 times in my life, it is really grueling. It is very grueling. So I want to make sure that our HR director and all of her director friends keep a lookout for her, because she is cool and calm and collected all the time, but she might need a little extra combat pay. But I appreciate your stepping up. When I was talking with folks who called to ask why did this happen, they were really pleased to hear that this might be an option, and so you have a lot of support out in the community for this as well. So I appreciate it. Please vote. We're voting to approve the current interim deputy city manager, Dorothy Hargrove, as our interim city manager for the city of Englewood until we find our permanent manager.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show. 7 ayes.
Now you get a new name tag.
Thank you. I hope that I earn the trust that you've put in me and promise to do my best for you and for the citizens. I look forward to working with you and look forward to a permanent city manager.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I should also tell you that we will still have to enter into the interim contract, and we know all the terms of negotiation that you established for us earlier. I don't expect any of that to be an issue, but we will be bringing that back for your signature.
Thank you very much. Next is 11C5, the actual city manager search, and staff recommends that City Council select an option for the search method to be used to identify the permanent city manager. And again, Director Maria Gonzalez is here to help us with this.
Let me get my microphone again. Can everybody hear me? Yes, okay. So this is even shorter. We need to discuss the option for selecting a permanent city manager and discuss the timeline for the process. The three options that we have is hire an executive search firm to run a national search like you have done before. Option number 2 is to have it done by HR alone, running, again, a national search. And option number 3 is a combination of both, engaging more than one firm and having HR run through those firms. So it would be a combination of the two previous options. If we do an executive search firm, we will have to do a RFI, a proposal distributed to well-known firms that are specialists on searching for public administrators at this level. The council will interview and engage the potential firms, and then the firm will interview the council, the staff, and the community to develop the requirements. And then the firm will identify the candidates and manage the interview process. So it will be run outside the city. The pros of an executive firm is that it's a professional consultant that has direct experience in the city manager jobs. The cons is that the expense is going to be roughly at $30,000. I mean, it depends on what we ask from the firm. And we lose the control of the search and recruiting process. If my department runs the search, the position will be posted on a multitude of national recruiting sites to assure the greatest possible response. The candidates are going to be screened and pre-interviewed by human resources staff. The council selects the finalists like they will do with any other search. And HR will manage the interview process and negotiate the contract. The pros will be that there is no additional expense. There will be a wide selection of possible candidates. We will be responsive on a week-by-week or bi-weekly guidance from council. And the cons is less experience with city manager searches, that obviously people that do that for a living, and requires council input at all steps in the process. And if we do a combination, the job will be posted on a multitude of recruiting sites to assure the greatest possible response, because HR will put those extra sites. But we also have active recruiting. What I mean by that, I don't have a recruiter on staff. If we engage search firms, they can do what we call cold calling. So they may know people that is already on a job, but they are interested in looking something else. They can call them and get applicants that otherwise wouldn't apply to a job opening. HR will pre-screen the candidates, so we will have control on who we want to see. Council will select the finalists and interview, so council will have the control over the process from the start to finish. And HR manages the interview process and contract negotiations, and only firms providing finalist candidates will be compensated. So if we would do a mix, if the candidate comes from a search firm, then we will have to pay the fee. If we find the candidate otherwise, we won't have to pay the fee. One other thing that is on the pros, we will have the widest possible selection, because we will have the candidates from the firms, but also candidates that will not apply otherwise. We will have, as I said, the cold calling benefit from several searches, not only a search firm, but also recruiters. and consultants are incentivized to attract best candidates. So the recruiters will be very aggressive, competing one against each other. One other pro there is that if you are a deputy city manager or a city manager in a smaller city, I don't know if you read through the material from ICMA. We have to give them 60 days because if they become a finalist, it's public information, so their bosses will find out. So that retracts a lot of people from applying when it's through a hiring firm. If we do it from HR, they won't have those worries because they know they will remain anonymous until the last minute. So we may get more candidates willing to apply for the job. And the cons is that the expenses are, if a firm is successful, we will still have the expense. If the recruiter brings the candidate, we have to pay them. It requires extensive staff time, like the HR options, and counsel time, obviously. And the selection and interview process is handled internally, in opposed to being externally. So those are the three options. And we need to decide on how we're going to proceed so we can start going with the process.
All right. Yes, Councilmember Bernstein.
How are they able to stay anonymous until the last minute and bypass the finalists having to be public?
When you go through a search firm, I'm just talking by experience. Most of the time, if one of the employees here call a search firm that I know, they will call me and say, so-and-so is applying for a job. So it's almost public information the minute that you submit your resume. If you submit your resume directly to the hiring person, I won't be calling anybody unless I have permission to do so. That's what the anonymity extends to the time when they become public. So the candidates don't become public officially until they are finalists. We can do, I don't know if you remember when we have the applicants for the interim, they didn't become, their names were not public until we decide who the finalists were.
Okay. Can we not, go ahead.
If we hold the pool of candidates in HR and the council, we will know what their names are, but only we will know. There will not be a firm that knows who those candidates are.
Are we not able to make a requirement of the firm or inquire when we interview them whether they make those public or whether they go chitty-chatting with all of the internal people in every other HR department? Because that doesn't seem very professional to me.
It doesn't seem professional to me, but the reality doesn't.
So we would want to hire a very professional firm, but we could ask that question of a firm. So I understand a little bit better. Thanks.
In the last one that we did, both the attorney and the city manager, when that was not an issue, we had a firm. We used a firm, and it wasn't a problem with anybody finding anything out. And it seems like good firms are good at figuring that out. I mean, if they're going to call and ask anybody, it's the same thing as if we did. Someone could say, Maria Gonzalez called me from Englewood, and do the same exact thing. So I don't see that as anything either way, really.
I'll just give you another example. We all said that compensation is confidential, and everybody knows what everybody makes. Right. I mean, people is people, and we can put it on the requirements for legal, and if we find out, we can go after them. But, I mean, reality is different from what we will want. Right. So if I'm a city manager somewhere and I don't want my city to find out that I'm applying and I have to go through a firm, I will have to think hard, very hard, if I will apply for that job. Okay. That's the only. I mean, reality is reality. It's just there is receptionists. There is a lot of people that handle the information. So,
sure. Council, Member Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor. This question's a bit broader. Do you know what the career expectancy is at any given city for city managers typically?
The time you're talking about? In the guides that I send you, there is actually a very good timeline. We're talking about 6 months, and I'm going to try to...
No, that's not what he's asking. What's their
Once
lifetime?
somebody has accepted the position, how long does a city manager typically last at any given municipality?
What is the tenure of a city manager through,
If I remember correctly, it was between 3 and 5 years in the same guides that they sent us. Between 3 and 5 years. That's what they were talking about, life expectancy for a city manager.
I'd rather say tenure. We're not going to keep you that long, Dorothy. All right, Councilmember Barentine.
I would like to go with the search firm. I think we've had really good success with them. I thought that they did a really good job for the most part. We can't hold them accountable to the state Supreme Court not being able to go ahead and get people in. That was where there was a problem. But they did a beautiful job of going out of state and getting people in state. So, and I think that they held confidentiality. So we had a lot of people apply. And I know that I wasn't on council when Eric Keck first was hired, but I was very involved in the process. And I think that firm did a pretty good job as well, except for not following the finalist piece. But that would be my recommendation. I think that they're experts at this. I think they already know the field and who's out there and available, and they do this, and they're the professionals. So that's the way I'd like to go.
Councilmember Martinez.
I would like to go with option 1, is hire an executive search firm. They are the experts in the field. We should let them do their job. I also think it would be awkward for HR to recruit and stuff for your boss. I think that's awkward and weird. So I think option number 1 is what I prefer.
Councilmember Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Member Martinez with regard to moving with option number 1. Thank you, Director Gonzalez.
Councilmember Sierra.
Same here. Option number 1 for me.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
Option number 1.
There's a trend here. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to go for an option number 1 of hiring an executive search firm for the city manager permanent?
I move that we hire an executive search firm for the city manager recruitment.
Could I have a second?
I'll second.
I think it's Martinez. All right. Any further discussion? If not, please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7 ayes.
Fantastic. Thank you. And so now we have.
If I may, Mayor, the next step that I would like to encourage City Council to consider is a motion to approve the RFP that was included in the packet, which will start the search for the search firm. The Schedule A that was included clearly delineates, I think, all of the expectations that we would be looking at, and clearly Council would review all of the proposals that met basic requirements for consideration.
Thank you. So questions we should direct to Madam Attorney, or to whom on this at this point? Does anybody have questions to either of them, I guess?
I drafted that, so I'll answer the question.
Okay. So does anybody have questions on the draft for the RFP? No? Any further? Would someone like to make a motion to approve it, to approve the RFP? And I'm not sure how it's stated, actually. So
I'll move to approve, to move forward with the request for proposal for the candidate search of the Englewood City Manager.
Thank you. Could I have a second? Okay, Wink is a second. Please vote.
All votes have been cast. Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you. I probably should have asked this before, and it's a little off. So you'll be able to get this out in by the end of this week?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. And then we'll start the process. So we can also personally share far and wide with people that we know in the systems to tell people to take a look. And I know we've gotten lots of emails from firms. It seems like they do searches in emails, and I keep getting them. So I keep forwarding them to Ms. Gonzalez.
We'll put it on the bid process, but also share it as far and wide as we possibly can to get the widest selection of candidates.
Thank you. Next up is item 12. I'm going to start with council members' choice. Who would like to begin? Councilmember Barentine.
Congratulations, Dorothy. I look forward to working with you. That's all I have. I'm glad that we're moving forward on all this.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
I have a couple of things. I actually think it would be a great idea for City Council to do a study session on at least the two items that were included in the Community Development Block Grant, and that is the conflicts of interest policy and also the procurement policy. I believe that I've never seen those before, and when I read them, I think they would be very good information for us to have, so I'd like to include those on a study session. I have a question. The city clerk's office may know this. Do the name tag keys open the community room still?
Whose name tag keys?
All the name tag keys, like the ones that council has, the ones that employees have.
I would have to find out how maintenance has them securityed for you.
Right. Not all the keys are the same. Not all the keys are the same, depending on your clearance, if I can use that. Some employees can open it and some can't.
Okay, so here's my concern. We have an election going on there, and generally when an election is being conducted, there's only a very limited people, like the election judges, that should have keys to that room. That is the reason that I asked that question. So I just wondered if they changed the code to that room so that no one could get in there during that time. So if we could get the answer to that question, that would be great.
Thank you.
The other question that I have is I found out, I actually asked the mayor on Tuesday about the holiday parade and what time we needed to be there, and the mayor told me that we've made a decision not to have it. I had a coffee on Wednesday, and a constituent said to me, the holiday parade has been canceled. Did any other council members know that we're not having a holiday parade?
I was not told.
Well,
Member Cuesta.
Yeah. I had my meeting this past Tuesday, and a constituent brought it up with me as well. That was one of the things I had on my list tonight. But that was the most I had heard was rumor from I shouldn't say rumor, but just...
a citizen?
Yes, a citizen filled me in on that, and I was going to inquire tonight. I think something through the Chamber of Commerce was how they found out, is what they were saying.
Right.
Not up to them.
So Chamber of Commerce, I'm understanding, is in charge of the parade, and they decided to cancel it because it was not a signature event, we were told that this year that it was not a signature event. I asked questions at the time as well, but the other event is the train event, right? And that's our
Holiday
signature
Express,
event.
yes. I mean, this was a chamber decision. They just made that last week, I think. They are having a tree lighting and choral event. I think it's scheduled for December 1st, I think 4 to 5:30. So we'll still have a special holiday event. It just won't include the parade and the expense associated with it.
Can I get some clarification on that, please? Does the chamber pay for the tree?
No.
Why is it their event then?
They sponsor the businesses that participate. I
participate in what? In lighting the tree? Wouldn't that be that's a city event? That's our tree. I don't understand why that became a chamber event.
There's no expense involved for them. They just wanted to celebrate Englewood, and so we're cooperating with them to that extent.
So why isn't the city doing that? Why aren't we still participating as a city event rather than...
We are. We're just not doing the parade. We are going to participate and help with tents and tables, and the library will stay open a little later so people can enjoy that.
So is the chamber paying for that?
No.
Then I guess what I'm taking exception to is that it's being listed as a chamber event. Because it's not, it wouldn't be. It's not.
I think that's a historical distinction that I think you point out needs to be clarified. I mean, it's always been a chamber parade, and the city has helped to subsidize it. But they decided to cut it back this year because they didn't have the funds to support it, is my understanding.
Okay, so I do take exception to that, and I think this council needs to make a decision on handing something like that over when we're the ones paying for that, and then they're listing it as an event for them unless they're supporting it. Then, I mean, we can go down there and light a tree just as well as anybody else and have it be more inclusive of a community event.
Well, we are going to advertise it, to the city, but we are, it is being
We are
organized.
spending money and we're doing all
We're
that.
not,
I'd like
we're not
to-
spending very much money. There will be some staff time, but it's very...
No, but they're spending none. It's not their event, and it is a city event. I'd like it to remain that. Whether we partnered with them before or not, it was not a chamber event. So, they were sponsoring part of it, but I am concerned about doing that.
Mayor Pro Tem Russell.
I have some concerns about this, that I don't know exactly who decided who we is that we were doing that. The city pays for everything. I asked the constituents that came to my coffee where they heard the information. They heard it from a presentation by the Englewood Historic Preservation Society on Monday night at the Brew on Broadway. So they were also told that the reason that the chamber is not doing it is because the city decided to cut in-kind donations. I have a real problem that it's the chamber that's representing the city instead of the city council. That is very problematic to me.
Councilmember Martinez.
I received an email on October 29th. I believe all of council received it from the chamber saying that it was canceled.
No. I actually got an email asking for sponsorship.
Member Barentine, can you hold off?
We got an email forwarded from Krista from the chamber to all of us, so we should have gotten it.
What was the date? Councilmember Martinez, point of information. What was the date on that?
October 29th.
Thank you.
So last Monday.
Thank you.
I can send it if everyone wants.
I'll review
it. I got it twice because I got the one from the original chamber and then the one Krista forwarded.
Thank you. I also got it, and it had the parade on it at first, and so I sent an email to them because I had just been told by them that they had decided to cancel it, and then they changed it. So I don't know if one of them had the correct thing or not in it, but it did say that it was canceled. And I was not at the last chamber board meeting. We had that meeting that went till almost midnight that night, and I did not get up and go that morning. But this should not be a big surprise. We talked about this before. We have talked about this, I think, in terms of it was not going to be a signature event. I remember asking Allison Carney why not, and the decision was that was not the way we wanted to spend funding this year for this, and that it had low attendance and was not necessarily the biggest bang for the buck for families. I, on the other hand, can see good reason for us to continue to do the tree thing. And I don't know what the setup has been in the past. I know the chamber has always been involved in 9 years, but so has the city council. And we have done it on a Monday night. We've done it at the parade. We've done it on a Monday night. We've gone at 5:30 and lit it before a meeting. So, but it's always been with the chamber and businesses in the area who come and are a part of it. So, Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Russell, I don't know which one of you is next.
My question is really then, were you told individually that it was, I'm talking to you, Mayor Olson, were you told individually that it wasn't a signature event in that conversation with Krista?
No, it was in a meeting in the community room. When we were going over signature events, the parade wasn't on it.
Well, just because the parade wasn't on it, it was something that we've always done, even though it wasn't there. So I just think there was perhaps a miscommunication. Here's the other problem that I have is why did it come from the chamber if it's something that the city and the chamber do together and the city pays for the tree and the lighting and all of that? Why wasn't the decision made by council rather than the chamber to send out notification?
The chamber has always done the parade. That is the chamber event. I think we probably need to be careful in combining it with the tree, and maybe the question we need to be asking at this point is who should be doing the tree lighting. I actually think it should be a city function.
Which means council and...
Yeah. So maybe we move it to a different time, I don't know, but it seems to me like the parade is the parade, and that's always been the chamber, and they've always come to us and asked us to support them in kind. That's been the way it's been.
Okay.
And that means money out of our budget, and so I assume a strategic decision was made about signature events, and that's why it went away. And I do remember us hearing it that night because I asked a question.
Could I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
Would it address your concerns, Mayor Pro Tem, to say the city is having this event? We're happy to partner with the chamber, but just to make it clear, who's doing this, or should we, withdraw any support altogether? I'm a little unclear what next step should be at this point.
I appreciate what Mayor Olson said about the tree lighting event. I understand. I didn't understand before about the parade, that the chamber had done the parade. I think it's something that we should work together on because, and this whole signature event not being a big deal, the holiday parade last year, all along the parade route, which is only a couple of blocks, the center of the oval was full. People were lined 2 or 3 deep on the 2.5 blocks. It is a bigger event than we really imagine, and people love it. And I just think that I think this is something that we should do. It may not have been included in the signature events. The whole thing was the block party. That was the biggest thing. But we've always done the holiday parade for years, and I have had a lot of comments from people that, there are people that didn't know that we had it. If I knew that we had it here, I would have come here instead of going to Littleton. I think it is a community building thing. I think if we're just going to do the tree lighting, that and the chamber hosts businesses and business do booths, I think it's something that we could do together.
Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you. So if I'm understanding correctly, it was strictly the chamber that was funding the parade.
No.
The city was not making any contributions on that?
The chamber has always been in charge of the parade, organized it and everything, and in the past has had trouble with the city in making sure that then there were gifts in kind. So no, they don't pay for it totally. That's why they're saying no to it, because they can't afford to pay for the policing of it, because the city has determined that they're not going to make that their event.
And that's, I agree. However we got here, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I think that it is a very valuable event for the city. I think that people love it. I'm with you, Mayor Pro Tem. Last season, or this past winter, it was really crowded. There were an awful lot of people there. I mean, you could barely walk through the crowd. So I think that a lot of folks are unaware that that's been canceled. I think that there's going to be some disappointment when people hear that's canceled. There's certain things, and I know we're trying to tighten the budget every day and get better about the budget, but there's certain things I think we should spend on, and this would be one of them for me. We rarely get the community together in one area to celebrate one thing. And so this is one that, and if this slipped by me, as you're discussing, Mayor Olson, there, that we had this discussion in a meeting, then that is my fault. I should have caught on to that, because I would have held the line a little longer on that one.
Councilmember Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm a little surprised, too, that from the meeting that we had with Allison Carney, that it didn't jump out at me that the parade was going to be canceled. I was there with you, Mayor Pro Tem, and yeah, it was insanely well attended. People were just ecstatic, and people were commenting for days and weeks afterward about how much fun they had. So I do agree it'll bring some disappointment, I think, to a lot of citizens. To your comment earlier, Director Hargrove, I think we should partner with. I think there should be more of a visible partnership with the chamber. I don't believe that the chamber not being this seems very odd to me that they would cancel it without discussing it with us if they're not responsible for
meetings
paying
with the
for
city.
it. I don't understand. It just seems odd if it's a city serving it just seems odd.
Well, all I can say is that kind of taking over the communications budget and looking at special events, there's no money for us to sponsor a parade this year.
But the communication, I think, should at least take place, no?
Well, I mean, we can do that without.
I don't like it that yes, we got an email with the decision, or weren't a part of it at all for an event that probably, as someone, maybe you, Member Barentine, that the citizens probably believe is our decision, or
I mean, we can
nothing to say about it.
We can certainly clarify that for next year and figure out how to include that in the budget and make sure that it is a city-sponsored event, and we can look for partners wherever we can. I'm just not sure how to bring that off this year with no funds. I mean, that's a conundrum.
I would like to see any documentation that says that we took it out as a signature event, because I don't believe that that's what happened. The second thing is, you've got the chamber, as the mayor pointed out, going around saying that they're not sponsoring the event because of they can't afford our police charges. The last email I saw was them asking for sponsors, so if they got behind the eight ball or didn't do what they normally do, whatever it is, but for them to cancel and then blame us in the community, put the information out there, and we don't know what's going on, is very disconcerting. It's like I said, if we didn't use it as a signature event, I'd like to see some kind of documentation that happened, because it passed by me too, and it was very well attended. So whatever somebody's spreading rumors, it was awesome last year, and it was one of the busiest and most crowded ones I've been to. We have had some. The person who would have been setting this up isn't here and hasn't been for a couple months. We've gone without an assistant city manager since June until October, when you were finally put in so the second week in September. So I believe that there are some monies that we have that weren't spent that might be able to go ahead and do that event. How much was it that it was costing us?
I would have to look up that information. I can't say.
So I guess it's just the communication piece of it, that it seems like it got decided that we were just going to cancel it with no information. And I have the benefit of some history here as well, and I would disagree with the mayor. This was not always a chamber event. This was something that citizens tried to put together, and once Randy Penn became mayor, they were able to get the police to go ahead and cooperate, to go ahead and do something. And then it became a chamber event. I believe that he was president of the chamber while he was on council for a short period of time, right or wrongly. But nonetheless, this isn't just their event. Whether we partnered with them or we kind of did it together, it was never their event. It was something that was started with people on council who were acting in other roles as well at the time. But it wasn't just a chamber event for the last 9 years. And so I am concerned about this partnership. If we could find out how much it costs, because I cannot believe that what we did, similar to Littleton, I mean, they just have that little Santa thing go down the street. I mean, I can't imagine that thing. I mean, spending a lot of money and stuff, the citizens, but it's not really that big of an event, or like cost effective, but we need to know how much that would be. And there have been some things that we haven't spent. Maybe we could appropriately direct, if it's a reasonable amount of money, to go ahead and see this through and have an event, because I'm very concerned about the way that this is going and the citizens' perception that we just had the city manager and all of this stuff going on, and then all of a sudden it's just at the last minute canceled, with us having very little time to go ahead and really do anything else. That doesn't seem very fair for the chamber to put us in that position either. So if we could find out what it was, I don't know whether the rest of council would be willing to spend some of that money to do that.
I would suggest at this point that it's kind of late in the game if they were going to do it in just 3 weeks, so it's probably too late for this year. But what I would like to suggest is that we figure out how to actually do something with the tree lighting and make sure that it's a festival that the city is recognized in, since it is in our property and we are paying for that. let's see, Mayor Pro Tem Russell, I think, was next.
I definitely want the city to be doing the lighting. I'm thinking that I've heard people say that they could put a parade together in just a few days, get citizens to get antique cars, or I mean, there's a lot of options that could be done that would be very inexpensive. And I think that perhaps we should check and see if there's something that we could do that would not cost a lot of money. But somehow we are going to have to communicate if the city is going to sponsor the tree lighting also.
Councilmember Cuesta.
Thank you, Mayor. In my question, I think ties in with what is kind of being suggested here, and I'm hearing at least 4 council members that are expressing some degree of concern of how do we get here, and maybe even some surprise that we are here. I think the optics of this are bad for council at the end of the day, that word is going to eventually spread on this, and that, you know, somehow we managed to find all this money for all these things, and we've canceled the parade. And I don't feel like there was a conscious decision to cancel the parade either, which is kind of the tough part for me. Is it too late to try to assemble something? I mean, you mentioned there's 3 weeks left.
I'm glad to call Randy in the morning if you want, or you go ahead and.
I think the difficulty is traffic control and police overtime, to be quite honest. It's not impossible, but there are a lot of, forgive me for saying it, moving parts to a parade. I would say that the limited conversations I've had with representatives from the chamber is that they plan to make a festival out of it, just not a parade. They've asked elementary schools to come and sing. They're hoping to have a Santa come by. So it should be a special event. It's just not going to close the street and include floats. Now, if that is, I mean, it's certainly not the parade that we've had sometimes in the past, but it's more than just flipping the light on the tree and passing out some hot chocolate. At least that's what they have indicated they wanted to do.
Sure. If we're unable to salvage the parade for this year, I think this is certainly worth revisiting for, I guess, would be the 2019 holiday season.
I think the chamber will be very happy about that. I think the issue really was that there wasn't able to close down the street. At one time, I heard the chamber talk about that they were not going to do it this year if we didn't close down Broadway, and that they didn't want to. They really want it to be big. That's what they would really like. And the chamber really has been in charge of it for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. They really have. It's not like we flipped something here, and I remember before Randy and the consternation of figuring out how we're going to pay for it, and council not being sure it was an event worth all of the money for police overtime, and it's always been an issue, so it didn't surprise me. It did surprise me that, well, actually, it doesn't matter what surprised me or not. I think what I would love to see happen is that we figure out a way to partner, and that we say the tree lighting actually is the city's responsibility, and that we'll support a festival that day of some sort. And I would assume we want to keep it on the day that they're planning it, because they've already been contacting. It sounds like, I mean, they already had for school kids and bands that was going to be for the parade. I don't think it was until a meeting they had a week ago. I don't even know when the meeting was. I just got the email that you all got, and so. I do know it's been an ongoing conversation, though. There have been DTR meetings or whatever, so it wasn't a done deal until or not DTRs, whatever the meetings have been. So
I don't think they'd had official meetings. They were still deciding whether they wanted to proceed.
Okay.
Limited understanding.
All right, so I would love to entertain for maybe our new interim city manager, to actually talk with the chamber tomorrow and see if we can sort of pull this back under it's actually a city event, but we're honoring the work that they're doing. They have put a lot of work into this already. It's a matter of, it sounds like, funding.
Thank you.
Are others in agreement with that? And Councilmember Berentine?
I'm very concerned that on several comments here, it's made it sound as if the police made the decision to go ahead and...
No.
But there's comments being made that are making it sound like that. And
thank you for clarifying. That's good to clarify.
I'm concerned that those comments are being made, and so it's giving that impression. if that is the case, that's of some concern that conversation didn't come to council. And I don't want them to be put into a position as if they were the ones that put the kibosh on it. But several comments have been made that put that squarely on their shoulders, and that's concerning me. If that is the case, and they made the decision that they don't want to do it, then we have to have some understanding on how those things work, that when these things happen, that's part of the police obligation.
I can assure you right now, the police did not make this decision. It was a budget decision, from what I understand.
I wasn't finished with my question, but I was recognized. Just 1 second, and then you can go ahead and make your clarification. So if you could please find out for me whether, because there was also an email piece that went out, I believe, it might have been from one of the meetings. So whether it's the police telling them or whether it was something that we got from the chamber, could you clarify whether that's the reason that they're giving out and whether there's any communication between the police and them that stated that? I would greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Council, any further council request time? Seeing none? Oh, Member Cuesta.
Thank you. And I will be brief. I guess Broadway's been very successful in revitalizing the nightlife down there near the Gothic, and then the bars and restaurants that have really experienced, I think, a renaissance. One citizen has brought to me, and I've heard it echoed, that they have concerns about when Gothic is having concerts, and then certainly in some of the late-night operators there on the 3200 block of Broadway, you have Lyfts and Ubers just stopping middle of the road. And a lot of those Lyft and Uber drivers, they make their money off their ratings, and so they want to provide the best service, and they'll pull right up front, and they'll wait for you 5 minutes to come out of the bar, etc. And I have heard some close calls on people just having to slam on their brakes. It's typically pretty late at night. It's dark. Again, with the concert hall, I think you get some kids here and there crossing the streets at maybe where they shouldn't, but that's what kids do. And so it has something that has been brought to my attention. I don't get out very much late at night, and so I hadn't had the experience firsthand, but this past week I happened to experience it myself. And so, I don't think there's any intention or malice in what these folks are doing, but I do think that some of those, and it's usually ride sharing, it appears, that some of those ride sharing folks, they'll just kind of park on Broadway, essentially. And it's typically more on the weekend. It's your Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. But I think it's something that it might deserve some attention. That was the first one. And, the second one, at the moment it struck me as bizarre, and now that I've sat here and reflected on it for a couple hours, I should have certainly said something when Mr. Reed brought that sign up. I don't think we should condone people just taking down signs in the city. It's not okay. You can't just remove city property because you have a disagreement with it. I think it would have been more than within his boundaries to raise the issue. And who does this belong to? What does it mean? Certainly something we should explore. But folks just taking things that...
For his good name, I got the impression that he found it, that it was
I got the impression he climbed up that pole and took it down. He had the screws.
Did he say he took it? Because I don't want to malign somebody's. I think that's illegal.
I make that statement under the impression that he took that down himself.
Yes. And he mentioned that it was 30.
Yeah, I thought he climbed up the
before
Wink.
it came down. Oh, sorry, I'm being bad.
Councilmember, I'm calling on you.
Came down.
Councilmember Maritime. Councilmember Wink.
Yeah, thank you. I had that huge concern when Mr. Reed was talking, and I thought to myself, did he take that down? I mean, I don't think it's legal to remove city property like that. But anyway, he did make mention, I remember, of how high it was before it was, I think he said, oh yeah, I'm standing here and imagine that it's 32.
I think we might want to intervene at this point and stop this conversation. I think we should have this investigated and a city council request, and I don't think it's helpful for us to debate up here who did what, and it would be in our best interest not to do that.
Very good.
So, anything else, Mr. Cuesta?
No, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate you bringing that up. I have nothing more tonight. We have... for me, anyway, so the mayor's choice. Our new acting city manager, Mr. Hargrove.
No extra report, thank you.
Madam Attorney.
No report.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.